Hello. I don't like that logo the way it looks. Let's see if I can fix it. It's too big. Meh. Oh well. So, hello. Uh, my partner in crime, Jason, is on a date. He wouldn't say he's on a date, but I'll say he's on a date. He's going to a haunted house. And so it's just us. If somebody wants to jump on, um, the Bible study. I mean, we could talk about anything people want to talk about, but as far as the Bible study, uh, the image I put on the Bible study is Judah and Tamar. It's from the 17th century. And we are about to get into some of the fun parts of the Bible, the parts nobody wants to talk about, including Judah and Tamar. Um, I just saw on the platform formerly known as Twitter, X, that somebody reminded us that the word Hamas actually shows up in this week's Parsha. It does. Usually it says Mal'ah Haaretz Hamas, if I remember correctly. Do I remember correctly? Oops, that's not it. Come on. Let me do this. Let's search. Exodus? No. Genesis. No. Genesis 6. Yes. Genesis 6:13. Well, starting with Genesis 6:11. Let's go to Genesis 6:11. There we are. ותשחט הארץ לפני האלוקים ותמלא הארץ Hamas. The earth also was corrupt before the God, and the earth was filled with Hamas. Violence is how they translated it there. And in 13. ויאמר אלוקים לנוח קץ כל בשר בא לפני, כי מלאה הארץ Hamas. Sandy!
Hey!
Yeah, so they're translating Hamas as violence there. And it's not clear that Hamas didn't actually choose their name. Oh, where'd she go? She was here a second ago. She's back!
I hit the wrong button.
How can you hit the wrong button, Sandy? How can you? Don't you know if you hit the wrong button and you're like working at a nuclear silo, like you could end the entire world?
I could. It's probably why they won't let me get a job there.
Did you hear about the guy in Hawaii who was whose job it was to man the nuclear siren?
Oh no. No, I did not. Okay.
Yes. This happened a few years ago, like 2 or 3, and he he sent out the emergency broadcast warning everyone in Japan that they were all going to die. Uh, there were many stories about that day.
A lot of people got right with God that day.
At least for 15 minutes they did. Yeah, yeah. He
Wow.
got fired.
I would think so.
So we can talk about Hamas. We can talk about sex in the Bible. We can talk about other things. I figured out how to set up recurring donations on PayPal.
Yes. Thank
Uh,
you.
there's a link in the description. Um, you wanna say our beginning prayer since Jason isn't here
On a day.
again.
At least you're having influence some places on that.
What do you mean?
Getting the young men to go on dates, or did you have anything to do with that?
No, and he's not on an actual date. I just called it a date just to kind of rib him. He's he, yeah,
It's good to rip them. Okay.
yeah.
Lord, in this day, yeah, in this day of rest for me and a lot of chaos around the world, thank you for being in control, even though we argue about what that looks like. I keep thinking about how we say we look to the mountains from whence our help does my help come from, and so I pray we remember to look to you daily in all things. Amen. That's it.
Man,
Protestant prayer today. Sorry.
it was a Protestant prayer. It was good. It was a short Protestant prayer.
Yep.
It was a to the point Protestant prayer.
Yep.
So how have you been, Sandy?
Mostly pretty good. Had an excellent visit with family. Today, I actually had the day off and 2 writing groups. Yeah, they all talked about meaning and life and crises and stuff. Kind of reminds me of here, but just in story format and things they write. Yeah, but that's okay. And I just had a nice chat for a minute with Emma, so that was. I actually mentioned StreamYard and conversations and what can be done with 15 minutes or less that you can post to YouTube.
There's lots you can do with 15 minutes. Yeah.
So, yeah. I think that's a pretty good place to be. You know? I still over worry in the night, but, whatever. As long as I'm not sleeping yet, I'm not worrying.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Keeping busy, doing lots of different things, which is good. I don't know if I've been keeping up with everything as well as I should. Sometimes I wonder, like, you know, I always can be like, oh, I could do a stream, right? And um, that's always fun, but then there's other things to do, you know. Um, it's funny that uh, a, a little way back, PVK and Sam were talking, and they're like, "Yeah, Jacob's left this little corner." I'm like, Yeah. They're like,
Not
he'll
much.
be back. You know, he's taking some time off. I'm like, I'm taking some time off. I'm doing more of this little corner stuff than I ever did before. Um, and yeah, this is I'm doing more of this little corner stuff than ever before, but I'm doing more and more of it um, off. It's not even offline, but more and more of it not in front of a live stream.
Yeah, I was going to say off screen more than offline. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's in a very real sense. I mean, that's how it should be. Like, if this is a functioning community, and I hope it's a functioning community, then it should be more on offline than online.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think we have our new. Here, let me see if I can. This looks too large. There we go. Let's see how that looks.
What?
So
Oh no!
this, yeah, this is my current version of the Fountain of Comfort logo.
Passes
Yeah.
the grade 8 boy test, or
The oh yeah, we took a lot of stuff off that we yeah, but I wasn't too worried about that. I mean, frankly, I think it looks slick. I think it looks good.
does nice clean lines, and yeah, that's colors are good.
Thanks to Matt C, he vectorized and he drew a bunch of stuff in ways I never could have. Vector files are very, very easy to manipulate, um, which is nice. So, yeah, he created the vector files for us, which I never would have been able to do.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, so, what do you want to talk about?
Well, what were you? Curiosity. What were you planning to read if nobody showed up?
Uh,
You can call
I mean,
this.
the I mean, we could talk about the story of so Paul Vanderklay many years ago did a did a video, "Sex Lives of the Patriarchs,"
Yes. Okay.
and it's one of his best videos. It was in preparation or in uh, engagement with the the CRC's whole thing with human sexuality, this human sexuality report and stuff. This was before the 2022. Uh, Zach, you should jump on. I am going to probably see Zach in real life in less than 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I am going to be in his area for, well, not too close, but I am going to be somewhere within his vicinity for the Lord of Spirits conference coming up um, in Antiochian Village, Pennsylvania. And so,
That's an interesting image in my mind.
what?
I think of Pennsylvania. I think of like Mennonites and Amish. Like,
Well, it is I won't come to dinner. Do you mean Zach or me? Um, um,
oh,
What? I'm not sure what you mean, Chad, by I won't come to dinner.
Was that dinner thing he was planning?
Oh, in Wisconsin? Yeah. It's been. I made one trip to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's actually beautiful, although I almost killed a deer.
No.
Wisconsin's filled with deer. Like, Wisconsin is very deery. Yeah. Garth! Birds and the bees. Ah, get married, Garth. Get married. Did you see his girlfriend was briefly in the chat? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's moved to Minnesota.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
It is a big deal. You don't just move to Minnesota. I mean, if you're moving to Minnesota, you've got plans. Uh, November 11th in Wisconsin. Um, Chad, I would love to come to dinner with you, but this is also the like the busiest time for insurance, even though I haven't been doing all my insurance work that I should be. Um, and I've been busy with a lot of stuff. My taxes are due tomorrow, and I haven't done that yet.
What, your taxes are due in the fall?
No, I got an extension. This is the
Oh,
second
okay.
year in my entire life that I've ever had an extension. Doing business taxes is a lot harder than doing personal taxes.
Hmm.
Garth says she's been very good to me. Then marry her. It's all good. As far as I know, I have 10 attendees. That's beautiful. Did Marshall is Marshall coming? I haven't. It's been a while since I've talked to Marshall. He is in Sacramento, and I introduced you to somebody else, not Sacramento, in Wisconsin, Madison, and I introduced you to somebody else also in Madison. I hope both of them are coming. Yeah, Marshall's a really interesting guy. I don't think you know Marshall. I believe this is Tyler. Jacob, man, I've got to go to bed, but I don't want to now that I know you're alive. Uh, jump on. Ben is coming. Which Ben? Couldn't possibly be Ben from Texas. Which Ben is he talking? Oh, Ben's the other guy from Madison. Yeah, yeah. I think that's his name. I've started knowing Justin, not Tyler. Why do I keep on calling him Tyler? I'm getting old. I'm sorry. I'm having a senior moment.
You're too young to have senior moments.
I'm not that young. I have a white beard. Look at this, Sandy. I've gone white. I've gone white.
It's a danger of all the wisdom you keep spouting,
Oh, wisdom. I am going to put the invite into the link chat just in case other people, for some reason, don't have the link. Yeah, so the biblical view on sex. I would say the Hebrew Bible is a lot more pro sex than the Greek / Christian Bible. Jacob will soon have a PVK beard. No, I will not, despite my love. Like, if I could grow a beard like that, even right now, my beard has started scratching. I have very sensitive skin and very thick beard hair. And so, like, my beard gets really, really gets what you call it.
Does it get itchy?
beyond itchy.
irritating.
It starts bleeding and stuff. So I can't grow a beard.
Ouch.
There was a dude on BOM who lives right down the road, but I don't know his name, and he never responded to my requests. What can I say? Haha, same here. Gotta get up in a few hours for work, but I'm gonna fall asleep to this. I'm World War III pilled. Uh, I don't think we're looking at anything World War III ish. Honestly, the situation in Israel. If it wasn't for Rabbi Breitowitz talking about Gog and Magog, which he has been, I would be completely dismissive of it. But he has to teach Sunday school for 5-year-olds tomorrow. That is awesome. Excited about the visit. Great. Justin, are you going to be at the Lord of Spirits thing? Good night, Chad. All beard hair is thick. Well, I guess. But for your information, we're going to be reading Object to Icon, The Struggle for Spirituality in a Pornographic World next month in our book club on my channel. So you're not going to the Lord of Spirits thing? You should come. Why aren't you coming to the Lord of Spirits convention? Yeah, he's not going. He's not going. Even though, like, he jumped on the stream from Antiochian Village. He was actually there.
I've never even heard of Antiochian Village before.
Me neither, until the Lord of Spirits. He has a computer training class, 15-week intensive. Okay. Computer training is worthwhile and useful, as far as I know. So the question becomes, if you have a biblical morality, how often should you be having sex?
Are you assuming you're married?
Well, so that's the question. Like, is it necessary to be married if you have a biblical morality?
Okay, so here's a very weird theological kink in my armor. I actually always thought, which explains why I didn't bail on my marriage the first day, but I always thought that if you had sex with somebody, that technically you were married to them.
That is actually the halacha. That
Oh, is it?
if you have sex with someone, and you don't specifically have the intention of it being what's called zenut, sexual immorality, then you are considered married. And so, like, yes, if you are shacking up with someone, as far as Judaism is concerned, you're married. But of course, Judaism also allows for divorce. So if you shack up with someone and then the Apostle Paul says to have sex as often as possible and only fast from sex if both parties consent. I think that's not generally considered one of the authentic letters of Paul, if I remember correctly. But I was going to pull up. Dun dun dun! Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Spanish Inquisition. Okay.
Yes.
Can that go one click larger? I can read it, but
That can go one click larger.
awesome.
So this is the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law.
Okay, I have a question already.
I have an answer already.
What you said sounded like bleh, I'm losing my ability to speak. Sounded like S with an L and a SH, but I am seeing SIMAN at the top.
Oh, no.
So
So that's
yes. Way up there, Shulchan.
Shulchan Aruch. Yes.
Shulchan Aruch.
Yes.
Okay.
Even Ha'ezer, yes.
Okay.
So Shulchan Aruch is literally, Shulchan means table, and Aruch means set. And so Rabbi Joseph Caro, about 500 years ago, Caro, I keep on saying Cairo, it's Caro, Karo. He wrote a reframing of Rabbi Jacob, the son of the Rabbeinu Asher, most usually known as Baal HaTurim, or the Tur.
I've heard you say that before, Baal HaTurim.
Yeah. So there are three rabbis who are. Did I? I haven't. I should probably take a picture of this and put it. It's a very useful chart. This is a very, very useful chart. I should take a picture of it and put it on screen. Let me see if I can find this somewhere. Let me see if I can find this somewhere. There it is. Somebody already put it on the internet. Can you believe that? Ta-da!
Oh, wow.
There it is. So, this chart is in the back of Chitat, which is a Chabad compendium that has lots and lots of things in it. And it gives us basically how the Torah has come down to us today. So at the top it says Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe, which is a thing which says which is a verse which says Moses taught us the Torah, and those are supposed to be the 10 Commandments in the typical Chabad fashion, being square. And then it has on the right here Torah, which is the first segment of the Torah, and it says Bereshit, Shemot, V'Yikra, Bamidbar, Devarim. Right, so those are the 5 books of the Torah. And then in the center, it says Nevi'im, it says prophets, and it has the books Yehoshua, which is Joshua, Shoftim, Judges, Shmuel is Samuel, Malachim is Kings, Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel, Yeshayahu, Hosea, Yoel, Amos, Obadiah, Yonah, Micha, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And then Ketuvim, which are the writings. Ruth, so Ruth. Tehillim, Eov, that's Job. Mishlei, that's Proverbs. Kohelet, that's Ecclesiastes. Shir Hashirim, Song of Songs. Eicha, Lamentations. Daniel, Esther, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Divrei Hayamim, which is Chronicles. And then below the Torah, these little boxes refer to the Mechilta, Sifra, and Sifri, which are Midrashim. And then there's a line to this bigger box on the left which says Midrashim, and it has Midrash Rabbah, Midrash Tanchuma, Yalkut Shimoni, and so forth. And on the right here, there's this box that says Zohar, which refers to the Kabbalistic teachings. So, did I lose you completely?
Nope.
Okay. And then, okay. So Justin is asking questions. The Apostle Paul says that 1 Corinthians 7, however, to avoid sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her husband. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due to her, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive each other of marital relations unless it is by consent and for a season, so that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Well, 1 Corinthians is considered one of the authentic letters of Paul. Jacob, Roman Catholics have an interesting claim that Jesus' teaching that divorce is permissible only for sexual immorality refers specifically to the forbidden sexual relations in Leviticus 18. Thoughts? I don't think so. I think Jesus was saying what rabbis have generally said, which is, while it is permissible to divorce for any reason, a good person only does it for a good reason, and sexual immorality seems like a good reason to me. So below that is the 6 orders of the Mishnah. Zerayim, that's seeds. Moed, times. Nashim, women. Nezikin, torts. Kadashim, sanctity, I guess. Taharot, purity. And then there's the Braita and the Tosefta. There's the Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi. And then there are Teshuvot Besifrei Rabbanan Savorai. There are the responsa and books of the Savorayim, which were early rabbis. We don't have much of their writings. And then there are Teshuvot Besifrei HaGeonim. It was the time of the Geonim, which included, for example, Rav Sadia Gaon and Rav Hai Gaon, and I think Menachem ben Saluk is considered one of the Geonim. And then this is the part which I did this whole thing for, which is, you see the 3 rabbis who are considered the 3 pillars of halacha, which is.
So I know the middle one.
The one on the right is Alphas,
I don't know.
Also known as the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Alfasi, I think is his name. But yeah, so known as the Rif. He was the first great scholar to write an abridged Talmud, which only included the halachic parts that were for practical halacha, so that a person could read Rabbi Alphas's abridgment and know what the halacha was to do on a regular basis. Rambam, Maimonides, wrote the Mishneh Torah, which was the first actual codification of the oral law, and it's still widely studied. And then Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher. And Rabbeinu Asher, he lived in Spain, and he wrote a commentary on the entirety of the Talmud. And really what distinguished him was that his son, Rabbi Yaakov ben Harosh, wrote a book called the Turim. And the Turim, Tur means columns, and he split it up into 4 sections, and he he explained his father's halachic teachings.
Is this when you would talk about the 4 pillars of Judaism, or 4 pillars of?
There's the 3 pillars of halacha.
Okay, 3 pillars of halacha.
That's Rabbeinu Alphas, the Maimonides, and Rabbeinu Asher.
The ones on the level above. Okay.
Yes. The 4 sections, there are 4 sections of the Turim. They're abbreviated here. Or HaChaim, Yoreh De'ah, Even HaEzer, and Choshen Mishpat, which are the same as the ones below. So the Tur was explaining his father's teachings. Now, Rabbi Yosef Karo, he wrote the Kesef Mishnah, which was a commentary on the entirety of Maimonides. And then he wrote the Beit Yosef, which was a commentary on the entirety of the Turim, on the 4 sections of the Tur. And then what he did was he wrote what became the Code of Jewish Law. He called it Shulchan Aruch, which means a set table. Because what he did was he took the same structure as the Torah, and but he didn't just do Rabbeinu Asher's teachings mostly the way the Baal HaTorah did. He took the best 2 out of 3 of the 3 pillars of halacha. So anywhere where 2 of the 3 pillars of halacha agreed, Rabbi Karo went according to them, and he also included the various customs that were. So he lived in the land of Israel in the town of Safed, Tzfat, and he included the Sephardic customs, and he wrote this book, which Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, so that's the Ramah here, right below Shulchan Aruch. So he was actually thinking of writing something similar, but since Rabbi Karo already wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he wrote what is called the Mapah. He named it the tablecloth. Get it? It's the tablecloth to the ship, right? So it was basically just a gloss. So when you read the Shulchan Aruch, it will. So here, if you look on this page, you see there's the bold. That is the title of this section, or siman is a section.
Okay.
And the larger text is Rabbi Karo, what he wrote. And then there's a Haggah. Haggah means a gloss or a kind of like note. And Rabbi Isserlis wrote these glosses, which are included. And so that's why in the translation it says Ramah, because it's Rabbi Moshe Isserlis's gloss. So to go back to here, right? So we have the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and again, it's the same 4 sections: Orach Chaim, which means the path of life, and that's for daily halacha, generally things which affect a person's life. So actually, for example, the Mishnah Berurah is a commentary on Orach Chaim, and most people study Orach Chaim because they're as a beginning type thing. And then Yoreh De'ah, which means to teach knowledge. And Yoreh De'ah is written mostly questions that people would ask the rabbis, especially regarding whether something's kosher or not, stuff like that. And then Even HaEzer literally means the helping stone. It refers to the laws of marriage. And Choshen Mishpat, it's the breastplate of justice, but it refers to laws of monetary matters. So these are the 4 sections of the Code of Jewish Law. And so to become a rabbinic judge, you have to know all 4 sections. To get rabbinic ordination, you can be tested on any section of the Shulchan Aruch and be ordained a rabbi. A lot of people take like a 6-month course to start off in the laws of meat and milk, and and the ones who are absolute putzes go around calling themselves rabbi after that. But yeah, that's like the bare minimum. And then it has the commentaries, major commentaries on those 4 sections. And on the bottom it says, "Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Israel." This is the Torah which Moses set before the children of Israel. Mikra, Mishnah, Talmud, Va'agada, Afilu ma shetalmid vatik atid lahorot lifnei rabo kovar ne'emar leMoshe beSinai. Jerusalem Talmud, Pe'ah 2:4. It says Mikra, which is the verses of the Bible; Mishnah, which is the Mishnah is the oral law; Talmud, which is the study of both; Agadah, which are the allegories; Afilu ma shetalmid vatik atid lehorot, including that which a student will in the future say lifnei rabo, before his teacher. Kavar ne'amar leMoshe b'Sinai, was already said at the very beginning to Moses at Mount Sinai. So all of that to explain to you what I am going to read now, which okay, so let's go back and see what it says. Broad shoulders coming through. Not sure what you mean. I will have to rewatch this if you say so. Wait! What am I waiting for? Breastplate of justice? Yes. Breastplate of justice comes from one of the Bigdei Kehuna, one of the things that the priests wore. Ephesians 6:14. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness. You're saying this has something to do with generosity?
What?
Not sure what you mean.
Generosity.
I have no clue what you're saying, Justin. I have zero clue, Justin, what you're saying. But all of that to explain where we are. So this is the first halacha. This is the first rule in the section, one of the four sections, the section on marriage of the Code of Jewish Law.
It's in the middle.
And it says, Dinei Priya Verivia, the laws of being fruitful and multiplying. V'shelo amod belo isha, and someone should not be without a wife. Ubo yud daled seifim, and it has 14 paragraphs. And the first paragraph is Chayav kol adam lisa isha. Every man is obligated to marry a woman. Kedei lifrot v'livrot, lirbot, in order to be fruitful and to multiply. V'chol mi she'eno osek b'priya v'revia, and anyone who does not busy himself with being fruitful and multiplying, ke'ilu shofech damin, he is like a murderer. Umama'et et hadamut, and he reduces the countenance of God. The gorem l'shichina shetistalek me'Israel, and he causes the Shekhinah, the divine presence, to flee from Israel. And Rabbi Yisraelis continues, V'chol mi she'ein lo isha, and anyone who does not have a wife, sharui belo bracha, he is someone who has no blessings. Belo Torah, who has no Torah, chulu, and so forth. Velo nikra adam, and he's not considered a human being. V'chevan shenasa isha avonotav mefafekim, and when he marries, his sins are removed. Shne'emar, as it is said in Proverbs 18:22, Matzah isha matzah tov, someone who finds a wife finds goodness. Veyipak retzon me'et Hashem, and he's making a little sort of pun with obtains. I mean, the way they translate it is obtains the will of favor in the eyes of God. But so this word puk means to go out. So he brings out the will of God, but in the same way, he's saying the pak pekin avonotav, his sins kind of flee. So it works in the Hebrew. It doesn't work in English. But this is a basic law. Yeah. Don says, not a human being. That's a bit rough. Yeah, it is a bit rough. But so it's so funny. So this person who I brought this up with, like this particular halacha, he just texted me. I mean on thing, and so he should come on to the stream.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if he'll jump on. Where were we? Choshen Mishpat, it's the breastplate of justice, but it refers to laws of monetary matters. Okay, not generosity. I misunderstood. And Max might just come onto the stream. Yeah, so not a human being. That's a bit rough. Yeah, so the Talmud has a common refrain of calling various people not a human being and being very, very strict on what is a human being, because it's saying what someone who's considered Adam, right, is considered a good human being, right? He's considered a real, like, good person, right? And there's this one place where it says an idolater is not considered a human being. And so it's one of the favorite quotes of the Talmud by the anti-Semites, because they say it's saying all Gentiles aren't human beings. Well, in a similar manner, it says anybody who isn't married isn't a human being. Anyone who there's a bunch of ways in which, like, it says the Talmud can be kind of harsh. But yeah, so getting married is considered, so in Judaism, based on Genesis 1:27, I want to say, we have a strong belief that Adam, and actually you guys in the book club, you're reading Lonely Man of Faith, where he talks a lot about Adam Kadmon and Adam Rishon.
Yeah.
Right? Adam Kadmon, oftentimes translated as primordial man. How did they translate it in Lonely Man of Faith?
Oh,
I think he does like first man and second man or something.
I don't think he said primordial.
Yeah. So Adam Kadmon is the spiritual idea of man, which was created in the image of God, and it is why am I forgetting the word? Androgynous, right? It is male and female. And you can see that clearly in the verses in the Hebrew in Genesis 1. And Adam Rishon, which is the first actually physically, materially created man, is, so there's the two Genesis stories. And unlike the critical scholars, no, we don't believe that God, like, we don't believe that there were two different stories and a bunch of people like decided they liked both of them, so the Bible has two of them in there.
People say that?
That's basically, so the critical scholars have this idea that there were two texts, two Genesis texts, and so when the Bible got edited together, it was like they included the both of them, right? So yeah, that's not Orthodox Jewish belief, obviously. What was I saying?
Adam Kadmon. So Adam 1 and Adam 2, and you were going to talk about the difference in sense when Adam was physically created, like in the second story. The first one is
right. So in the second story, in Adam Rishon, you have Adam, and then you have Eve or Chava, who is created. It says one of his slotav, and that gets translated as rib. I actually translated as side. I don't think rib is a good translation of tsela, but it's yeah. So we have this idea that, like, male and female together is what makes the image of God. And then when they are separated, you actually have half of a human being. You don't. A full human being consists of man and wife together, and that's why when they reunite physically, they do that which is the holiest thing that is possible to do, which is to create another human being, right? And so human, yeah. So like in a very real sense, the greatest accomplishment you can have as a human being in Judaism is to have children.
It's not so easy as we let on, so
Um,
it's an accomplishment.
I believe you. I definitely believe you. I never imagined when I was even in my teens, but certainly in my 20s, that I would be 46 and not have any kids. I never thought that was a possibility. Um, and while I guess it's still kind of a possibility that I will have kids, I don't think it's a real possibility. I will have kids. Um, but yeah. Um, so yeah, Saint Simeon, the new theologian, says that Eve was within Adam in Genesis 1:26, and then was pulled from her side in Genesis 2:22. Uh, I think you mean his side. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean generally, I would kind of sort of agree with that. But we do have this idea that Adam Kadmon was not a physical creation. It is the perfect image, which, yeah, which existed. So,
Yeah. Then Adam Kadmon was singular in a sense, as in, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
yeah, yep. Adam Kadmon, and then Adam Rishon. I mean, yeah, exactly. I I don't like the hyper literalist reading that we have gotten used to um, having based on um, just modernist views. Like, yeah, I keep on calling Max a Lutheran, and he finds that incredibly funny because he's actually he's much better Chabad Chassid than I can hope to be. He's hopefully he'll jump on and you'll get to meet him. Very nice young man, and I'm constantly calling him a Lutheran because I think he's been infected so much with modernist and literalist understandings of things. But
I got called Jewish today on Bridges of Meaning.
there are worse things to be called. There are definitely worse things. I'm not sure that person thought there were worse things to be called.
Oh no, it wasn't an insult. It was just an observation
Ah,
how I process some things.
I see.
But I find a lot of redemption in hearing, especially the Genesis opening stories in the Jewish context, after having heard them repeatedly for quite a while. Yeah, in other contexts.
I would agree with you, Justin. That's a much worse thing to be called. Uh, Yeah, I've considered doing a stream refuting all of Chazi's ugly Zionism, but we have Max.
Hey, Max.
Hello there. Ugly Zionism.
Yes.
As soon as you said that,
You had to jump on.
I was summoned with those very words.
Max is my Lutheran Hasidic friend.
Okay. Chas v'shalom.
Chas v'shalom. How are you doing, Max? How was Shabbat?
Shabbat was really nice. I took your advice and I learned some Talmud. Something that, as a Lutheran, I don't really often. No, just kidding. I.
Who'd you learn with?
With Rav Art Scroll, of course.
Oy!
That's
not learning
I got this
Talmud.
for free. Okay, Masechet Megillah. Have you heard of it? You should check this out.
I've heard of Masechet Megillah. It's a beautiful Masechet to learn. It's one. All of Megillah is only one art scroll book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's 4 prakim.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah is only one, and it's 4 prakim. Yeah.
But Rosh Hashanah has
4 chapters.
Has a lot of dafim, if I remember correctly.
Not that many.
No?
I think it's like 20 something, maybe 30 something.
Really?
It's not that long. Yeah. Nah. Rosh Hashanah is the only one that I've actually made a siyum on. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. Megillah's a pretty nice one. It's very Megillah is very popular. Tractates of the Talmud. Max, how many tractates of the Talmud are there? It's a trick question.
It's a trick question because you're Shalmi.
No.
I think.
Wrong.
I actually don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Like 70 or something, right?
Officially, there are 60.
63.
Really, there are 63, but officially there are 60. So how do we go down to 60 if there are 63?
Minor track, Masechet Sofrim, the little ones that nobody reads, maybe get sort of sliced off the end. No.
So the Babas are supposedly one tractate, so that removes 2, and you end up with 61. And there are various opinions, but one opinion is that Makot is actually part of Sanhedrin. It's not a separate tractate. So that's the typical way of going down to 60. Yeah, from the 63 we have. But the Mishnah is in all of those tractates. And so the Talmud Yerushalmi, while we have different tractates of the Yerushalmi and the Bavli, ultimately the tractates is of the Mishnah, not of the Talmuds.
Sandy, how do you know Jacob?
Yeah, Sandy, how do you know Jacob?
Short story from his Discord server.
Awesome.
Bridges of meaning first, no?
I'm not sure. I mean...
Oh, yeah, when you came on, I don't think I was on Bridges of Meaning anymore.
No. I know Jacob because my sister says I'm a bear for punishment, and I leapt into some very angry CRC tearing the denomination apart places and kind of went quickly off of Paul Vanderklay and ran for safety over to Jacob.
Yeah, I don't think Max knows too much about the Paul Vanderklay stuff. Do you?
I had to Google CRC. I'm assuming this Paul fellow is like a big reformed fire and brimstone
Christian Reformed
preacher?
Church. He is anything but fire and brimstone.
Oh, okay.
He's very, very left wing. He's like he's
Everybody
more woke than you are.
He's so tender-hearted and everything, and I'm like, sorry, but no.
Wow.
But he's not really scary.
He's not scary at all. Paul's nice. Paul's great grandfather was Jewish, and he married a Gentile and got disowned. And Paul lost a lot of family members in the Holocaust, actually, but he's a third generation CRC pastor. Anyway, so Max is the first person in real life to have ever recognized me from YouTube. I go to synagogue and somebody comes up and he comes up to me and he's like, "You're Jacob." I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm like wondering who was talking to him about me. And he says, "From the YouTube channel." And you could have picked me up off the floor. I'm like, what? This was Pesach, wasn't it? Like last year or the year before, something like that?
I actually don't remember. That sounds about right.
I think it was Pesach, yeah.
Pesach, I know we sat next to each other, but I think at that point we had already met once. So I'm going to assume sometime before Passover, but
it was the weirdest thing in the world. I'm just in synagogue and some guy comes up to me and says, "You're Jacob." I'm like, yeah.
From YouTube.
From YouTube.
Yeah. I was surprised to be told that I was the first person to ever.
You're the only person ever.
Really? Not even Trey? Didn't Trey?
To this day, nobody's said that to me. Well, I met Trey at a Estuary meeting, and Estuary is a thing with Paul Vanderklay, so it's not so strange to go to an Estuary meeting and meet me. It's kind of like, yeah, people like at Chino, which Sandy came to, at Chino, like several people were like, "Hey, you're Jacob from the internet," and stuff like that. But like all of those people had come to something. It was the first time that it was somebody who was like unrelated to my actual. Although I guess even you weren't that unrelated because Rabbi Wagner's been on my channel and stuff.
He's been on this channel.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, he knew you, but he didn't know that.
So you're taking away like my one claim to fame, being the first person to ever, introduce myself to you in real life.
No, you kind of are the yeah. No, you
okay,
are.
Okay, then I'm the only person.
I think you're still the only person to ever do that.
What did Dove have to say? I wonder, Rabbi Dove.
Dove was on for one of my Gimel Thomas streams. So he came on and I asked him some tough questions. I think I sent you that video.
You send me a lot of videos.
And you don't watch any of them, obviously.
I've watched some. If you can imagine that. Gimel Tammuz, no, I don't think I've seen any Gimel Tammuz videos, any Gimel Tammuz content from Jacob.
I do a Gimel Tammuz stream every Gimel Tammuz.
The last time Gimel Tammuz came up between you and I, you said if you're a real Lubavitcher Chassid, you learn Atatetzava on Gimel Tammuz, and implying that if you learn the Gimel Tammuz Sicha about Joshua stopping the sun, you're a fake Lubavitcher.
Who learns that on Gimel Tammuz?
Probably most Lubavitcher Chassidim.
No. Most Chassidim learn about Tatetzava. On really? Gimel Tammuz, they learn about Tatetzava.
They don't learn the Gimel Tammuz Mimer on Gimel Tammuz.
What's the Gimel Tammuz Mimer?
The one that you're kind of busting me because I was about to say the one that everybody learns, but you went to
Tzfat.
I didn't go to Tzfat. I was in Tzfat for like 4 hours.
Okay, well, apparently you've been spending a lot of time with Yechidniks because the official upstairs 770 guidance is that you learn the last mimer that the Rebbe prepared for dissemination, which was about Tatetzava.
So downstairs is the Israeli transplant, like
crazy.
Okay, I maybe I've been. This sitter, actually, I don't know if you recognize this. Have you ever taken a look at this book, Jacob? Specifically, it's this one that's the hardcover in this size.
Yeah, what
You
about
can
it?
you can see this. You can only buy this in Israel, as you can see. Shackles.
Why? What's
I don't
this?
know. This size, they only make hardcover there, or they only
Okay.
like sell it there. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've met Jake at this aforementioned Chabad house, but I saw Jake had this size sitter in hardcover, and I went up
Yeah.
and I told him this, and he said he had also noticed that. So
So
that makes
what's
two
so
of us.
strange about it?
You cannot find this size in this kind of hardcover outside of
Okay.
Israel. I don't know why that is, even though it's in English. Just an interesting tidbit. If you notice, next time you're around a bunch of
It
Lubavitchers, they have.
must be just printers and stuff. Might even be inches. Yeah, it might be inches and centimeters. That might be the difference
Interesting.
as far as printing it.
Just something I noticed. Everything Chabad prints is printed in China.
Really?
Pretty much everything. That's why Sfarim now are much cheaper than they were.
They
before
are
China
much
opened up.
cheaper. Yeah.
I know that because there's a lot of lemons. Like you'll open a book like this to page 50, and the next page will be page 300 because the Chinese are not super familiar with Hebrew characters as numbers or even English numbers.
Have you met Trey? Did you meet Trey when he came for Shabbos?
I met Trey on a Shabbos, and then again, you two came by.
Oh, for Rosh Hashanah. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, on Rosh Hashanah we dropped by.
We spoke very briefly.
So you're going to be there for Shabbat 1000, right?
I will be.
So, and you're coming and sitting at my table, right? No. You have other things to do. He has his girlfriends, plural.
Chas v'shalom. No, I'm sitting with an ex-girlfriend who begged me to. Well, whatever. I didn't say that. I'm sitting with my friends.
With your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Trey and Andrew are coming for Shabbat 1000.
Awesome. Sounds awesome.
It will be awesome.
Will be awesome. LAPD will be there, as I'm sure you saw.
I assumed so. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a crazy email.
Max has expert.
No, God forbid. No. From Kite comes first. I'm a totally different person before like 3.5 years ago.
Hold on. You were dating, what's her name? Talia?
Like a year ago. Or like 6 months ago. Yeah,
you were dating her. Like,
don't bust me on live stream, okay? I signed in through Facebook. Like, for all I know, this is gonna or YouTube actually. I take that back. I was gonna say, for all I know, this is gonna end up like everywhere, and I'm never gonna be able to scrub it from anywhere. I don't think that's true. I take it back.
Well, it's being broadcast on Twitch, which
that's okay. That's fine.
It's on my Twitter. And on my YouTube channel, which gets watched by tens of people.
What about your Twitter? How many people?
I have like 500 followers or something on Twitter. Yeah.
Maybe I should change my name and let's see. No, it's too late for that. Oh well.
Let's dox Max. Max, what are you studying at USC?
Criminal zoology.
Seriously.
With a focus in marine psychology.
I'm sorry. Thanks for questioning.
The thing about the criminal zoology is that if you say it quickly and it's like not obviously a joke, people will totally like they don't register what you just said, so they'll be like, what do you mean criminal zoology? And you say, well, I mean, animals commit crimes and sometimes
they do.
it's like you you can just run with it and nobody's going to notice like that you're saying nonsense. Like, yeah, a couple months ago, there was a case, a really bad one at SeaWorld. I had to intervene. And, with my focus in marine psychology, I was able to talk to the whale. And you can get away with a lot and no one's going to notice. You're just totally gobbledygook. But yeah. Jacob, how was Shabbat for you? And why don't you observe God's Sabbath?
I'm a bad person, that's why.
That's not what I wanted you to say. I regret asking already because that's not true at all.
It's a long story. I was Shomer Shabbat for about 10 years. And that's back when Chabad was just starting out. And yeah, I mean,
Dope.
Max has Riz and is a liar. Based.
Riz is I don't know if you knew this, Jacob, but it's short for charisma.
Yes, I knew that. Yeah.
That actually took me a couple days to realize.
Me too. Yes, me too. Yeah. But when you hang around with Trey, you learn a lot about Riz and based and all kinds of weird things.
Well, I mean, language evolves, right? There's nothing wrong with new words. Shakespeare invented a lot of new words. James Joyce. Did you know that the word quark, the physics term, was coined by James Joyce in Finnegan's Wake? It's a word that he invented.
Did not know that.
When I was at USC, one of my roommates was absolutely obsessed with James Joyce, and I detest James Joyce.
Jacob, you're terrible. I mean, you're that's like tempting me to just explode, because that's like if I said to you, I'm a big Zionist. I love the state of Israel. Like it's like stepping into the lion's den.
Why? You're a big James Joyce fan?
I'm a huge James Joyce fan. Like favorite
that explains
writer,
why you're such a Lutheran.
He was a kid from Ireland, you clown.
You're stuck in that entire Lutheran mentality. That's what it is.
I'm starting to suspect that word means literally nothing to you, because in the same way that everything is misnagd, like everything is hisnagdus. Like you could be the most from Yid with a strimel, you're a misnagid.
Yeah.
Like you could be Latin mass going Catholic from Dublin.
Yeah.
And you're a Lutheran. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're using a new, again, language evolves. Lutheranism, that just means anything that I don't like.
Jacob doesn't like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lutheran
I'm
means
learning.
anything Jacob doesn't like.
No,
As does Miss Nugget.
I love James Joyce. I recommend him to everybody.
Do you have a dictionary to understand what he's saying when you're reading him?
It's not that depending on what you're reading, it's not that per se. It's not that kind of like, get a guide to Ulysses. There are many. I could recommend you some.
I know there are guides. I refuse to read a book that needs a guide.
Have you heard of the Talmud? What do you mean you refuse to read it? Sorry, Sandy, I cut you off, Sandy. I'm sure you were.
I was just thinking the same thing.
But that's why I called you a Lutheran, because the Talmud is a religious text for me.
Still a book.
That doesn't require a guide, if not.
It is a religious text. It is a text. It is a divine text. And that's why it requires an explanation, as opposed to the writings of some man.
I agree that there's a difference. You should nonetheless give James Joyce another shot. and
Why?
succumb to his genius, because he is a genius and probably the last, if
If
not.
he's such a genius, then you shouldn't need to
Why
have-
can't I understand his? What is
Yeah.
coming out of your mouth? You're one of the smartest people I know, and you were about to say, if James Joyce is such a good writer, why do I need a book to understand what he's
Yes.
trying to say?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, Jacob. Why?
Because he's not that good of a writer.
Oh. No comment. Sandy, are you a James Joyce fan? Are you no?
No. Sorry.
I'm being voted off the island, I see. No, I think he's amazing. I think he's just extremely creative, and his books are filled with a love of art and literature and the human spirit, and they're filled with puns, and I don't think very many people after him, with some exceptions, pretty much he ended the English language. Like, he ended it. It's over. Like, there are writers after James Joyce. I also love Nabokov, but basically James Joyce ended the English language with Finnegan's Wake. You cannot write a novel in English after that book. And for that, I have to say, thank you, James Joyce.
Do I have to confess I've never read that book?
Finnegan's Wake, well, nobody had, neither has he. I mean, that book is, impossible to read. That one you do need a dictionary for. But if you look at it,
he ended the English language by writing a book that you need a dictionary to read.
Yeah. Have you ever taken a look at Finnegan's Wake? Have you ever?
Nope. And you are not making me in any way
Jacob,
interested.
Listen, I'm not trying to sell you on the book, but if you know the premise of the book and you take a look at the first page, or really any page, and you just live with it a little bit, you breathe the air that he's breathing, you get inside of his world, and you look at a guide, you realize his genius immediately. And if that's not your thing, you can always read, Dubliners, much more digestible, maybe a better book on the whole. Also genius.
You sound like you've gotten taken by a bunch of obscurantists.
I no. Books that are hard are not obscure.
Books, no. If something is genuinely difficult, right?
Yeah.
Then, so like calculus is genuinely difficult,
Yeah.
right? So you have to study and you have to be at the level to understand it, right?
Sure.
There's a genuine depth to it.
Sure.
That's not the same thing as a novel. A novel is supposed to speak to you. It is the art form is, so this is like people who like atonal music. They're saying they just don't like music and they want their dislike of music to be considered music.
No.
It's Satanism. It's heresy.
It
that's
is
what
not heresy.
that's what atonality is. Atonality is Satanism. It's the inversion. It's taking the holy and then inverting it. Sandy's not sure what atonality is, Max. Why don't you tell Sandy?
I'm being terrible. I'm thinking about the page Jacob doesn't want to look at. I'm wondering, that's not English.
Yeah, it's not English. It's gobbledygook. But here's the thing. It took Joyce like 15 years to write that book, and he swore by it and took it very seriously.
You sure care why?
Buy it and not add it?
Sorry? You divide it and not I'm just saying, when people who have already established themselves come out with an experimental novel in a made-up language and promise you that there's something at the bottom of the rabbit hole, maybe take them seriously.
Or maybe dismiss them.
Maybe dismiss them. Jacob, what do you like to listen to if not Schoenberg? I really disagree with what you said, but I'll let
you have to explain for the peanut gallery what atonality is.
Basically refers to a period of musical composition towards the end of the beginning of the 20th century and the end of the Romantic period in music history in the West, where instead of, well, basically what happened is Wagner came through and just ended tonal music. It had never been that complicated. It had never been that gargantuan in scope, and it had never attempted to do so much on stage as Wagner's operas. And people like Schoenberg and Berg and others basically said, how do we get out from under this like absolutely massive and heavy looming influence of Wagner? And the answer is to one-up him from going from barely tonal opera to just that 5% more that was needed to just jump over the fence to get into a genuinely non-tonal music.
What is tonal and non-tonal?
It means that no one tone, no one note is valued over another. Meaning, for example, a C major scale, so C is important. E is really important because if E were flat, it would be a minor key. And if it were F, if it went up a half step, then you wouldn't know what it was. So C and E are really important. G is going to be really important because G is the fifth, and Western music is all about 5-1. So comes Wagner and says, what if all 12 notes were involved? And you get this like endless chromaticism. Wagner's not the first, but he's
chromaticism.
Chromaticism. He just endless ascending and descending lines that go through the chromatic scale, like chords that sound dense.
And more so than music from say China, Japan.
Well, China and Japan, as I understand them, in general, music outside of Europe is much more. It's tonal, but it's much more like what we would say modal, meaning you don't really have like a chord progression show up anywhere outside. Like the West's big contribution to world music is the idea of a chord progression.
So this isn't about how small or how often you can divide the notes and the spaces between the notes. It's about whether or not you even acknowledge the notes.
Yeah, you're talking about like they actually have different notes than us. Like they have a scale that has more than 12.
Way more, yeah. I don't play, but I did take some theory.
That is true, but with Wagner, it's still pretty much the 12 notes of Western music. The generation after him are going to be very interested in Eastern music. He was also interested in Eastern music, and you do start to see Western composers, like you're saying, use instruments from other cultures. But Wagner is still orchestral 12-tone, just intonation music. And yeah, Schoenberg, the atonal composers, they just went that extra step. And it's a very precious and interesting period of music history.
It's so funny how Lutheran you are, Matt.
That means nothing.
So let me explain. Let me explain what he just said. Think of what he just said about Wagner as the Roman Catholic Church, and then think of atonality as the Protestant Reformation.
No,
right? Which is there's all this beauty and there's all this scale and grandeur, and you want to flatten it all to this egalitarianism that has no hierarchy. That's basically what you explained. You are so Lutheran in everything.
I don't agree with your point, because Wagner was a super Lutheran and a German nationalist and was no friend of the Catholic Church. I know what you mean about
Okay, so that might be facts. But my ex used to say facts without structure are useless. You can't hang facts on nothing. It's like trying to hang drywall on thin air. So my question to you becomes, how do they even write that? Because the little tiny bit I know about music is you always return to the tonic. You have a tone because you're going to ground yourself there. So what's the structure around which they write and form these?
So this is the thing, what I said. Atonality is parasitic, it's satanic. It's this
God.
So music is tonal. Music is actually like being able to like have a rhythm and a harmony and melody, right? And that atonal people, right? They wanted that cacophony. They were looking for a cacophony. They were looking for that which shatters music. And so it's truly satanic.
Jacob, I hear you.
Which means I'm ignoring you.
I hear you, but the reason why it's not satanic is the following. It didn't happen one day that Arnold Schoenberg decided, today I will write music with no tonal center. There are moments in Wagner, and likewise moments in early Schoenberg, that are not that different, and that somebody who may not be into music might think are like genuinely just nonsense, because Wagner was going for some kind of cacophonous, explosive, apocalyptic musical moment, and it needed to sound chaotic. And that, likewise with early Schoenberg works, they're very romantic, and you can tell who he's influenced by very easily. The transition into honest to God 12-tone music I don't listen to or like, by the way, but nonetheless understand, was something that took decades. And Sandy, to your point, how did they write that down? You're right that if there's 12 notes and you play one note more than once, then by default the ear is going to hear that as the tonic, because that's home base. You played it twice. So they came up with a system called 12-tone composition, or something called a 12-tone row, where they wouldn't repeat a note until every note had been played, to achieve an absolutely flat dimension of no repeated notes, no roots, no tonics, no nothing. And is it listenable? Jury is still out.
Jury is not out.
Was it an interesting and necessary point in the development, or let's say a coda, pun intended, a coda to the development of Western music? It absolutely was. That's my view.
So when I was in college, a lot of my friends were music composition majors, and one of them is actually a professor at Cal State Fresno, I think, Ken Froelich. And I still have friends who are in composition. And so my roommate, who was really into Ulysses and James Joyce,
was also into Schoenberg.
Yes. Yeah. Was very into atonality and music. Like, he would be like, yeah, an artist that makes music for an audience isn't making true art, right? So one of the most disgusting experiences I ever had was the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles had this great ad campaign where they rented billboards all around Los Angeles, and they made them look like, you know, those white little things at museums that have next to paintings,
Yeah.
and it tells you the title of the work and the medium and like, right? So they did that, and you would be looking at the billboard. So like on the Santa Monica Freeway on the 10, they had one, and it just said Los Angeles Still Life. It was so hilarious, right? I loved it. I went around the entire city looking for these billboards, right? Like one time I was pumping gas, and I looked down, and some of the places here have advertising space on the gas pump, and I looked down, and it had one of those, and it said Middle East dependency. I went around the entire gas station looking at each one of them because they were different, right? Like, this for me was like, oh, this is so beautiful. This is modern art, right? And I'm like, yeah, this is fresh and new, and it made me actually want to go to MoCA. So I go to MoCA. It was the most stereotypical garbage you could imagine. Tons of porn, pictures of not very attractive people.
In the porn, or is that?
Yeah. Like no. The of course, all the nudes were of not very attractive people. There was a room that was wallpapered in chocolate. There was paper. There was a display, paper stained with different things, and of course, it included all of the artist's bodily fluids, right? Like paper stained with feces, with urine, with semen, right? It was just the most trite attempts at being new or whatever. I caught a person trying to figure out if a fire extinguisher was a display or not, right? And it was just so disgusting. And so I went to the bookstore, and I asked about if they had a book of the ad campaign, because I loved that ad campaign so much, right? And the woman at the bookstore told me, and after that, I was like done with modern like ideas of art. Told me, oh, we get lots of people who ask us about that, and the board of directors, Shavua Tov Chazi. Chazi is our resident Zionist, Hashem Yerachem Alav.
I don't get that title. What do you mean?
No. Chazi is a real Zionist.
Oh,
he
okay.
actually believes in all kinds of Zionism stuff. Hashem Yerachem.
You are a zealot. Continue.
I am definitely a zealot. So the board of directors got together, and they decided that because it was an ad campaign, it wasn't art, because it was made for a commercial thing.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when, and it was perfectly what my roommate Joe was constantly saying. Like, he had completely bought into the atonal James Joyce, all of the satanic modern postmodern like yuck.
But Jacob,
yeah. Ingrained in him.
What you don't understand is that
I don't understand.
What you don't understand is that the antidote to the senselessness of modern life, the antidote is James Joyce and Schoenberg.
No, it's not.
See, I don't see it as.
Hey, Joy, you're new here. I don't believe we've seen you before. Welcome. Go ahead.
I was going to say that properly understood, James Joyce and Schoenberg are the last high modernist geniuses. It's only after them, it's the generation after them that realized they were never going to do what those titans of modernism, Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot and Stravinsky, we can throw all of them in there. When they realized they were never going to do what they did, then they turned to the gobbledygook toilet bowl, I'm not talking about Duchamp, but like the potty humor music and art that you're describing. I don't see that as connected. I see that as a cope with the fact that they could never achieve as much as their teachers achieved, basically.
Artistic nihilism, exactly.
I agree, is precisely what came after this period of history.
Atonality to my ears is the musical equivalent of cats fighting in my driveway. It's not even as good as cats fighting, and to call atonality music is it's Satanism. That's all it is. It is Satanism.
You are.
It is perversion. It's parasitic.
I think
heresy.
Literally 12-tone music, like where it literally has no tonal center. I think you could say, considering the etymology of the word Satan, I think you could call that satanic. But to call Stravinsky or the early works of Schoenberg or the writings of Ezra Pound satanic because they are filled with jargon and formal experimentation, that is satanic, Jacob. You are the Satanist. You are accusing them of something that you have no right to accuse them of. I could send you a piece by Schoenberg that would change your mind, honestly.
If it's tonal, then it might be music.
It's super tonal.
Okay,
it's super Wagner. It's super late Beethoven. It's amazing.
Okay, I mean, despite the fact that USC had the Schoenberg Institute and like all the musicians constantly talk about it. Andrew says, Max, I don't trust a man with curly hair telling to tell me about Satan.
Can I put a thing in here? How do I do this? Oh, I'm joining.
Oh, what?
Oh, I have to connect to YouTube. That sucks.
Yeah. If you want to type a note, yeah.
Well, there you go. How does that work?
Oh, okay.
With curly hair to tell me about Satan.
The only thing is, I don't know if I can play this.
You don't have to play it. Just everybody listen to. I'll tell you the version that I like that you can find online. The piece is called "Transfigured Night," or in German "Verklagte Nacht." Pierre Boulez, membre de l'ensemble Interpretationen. Highly recommended. Highly recommended piece of music that is mind-blowing. And what's interesting is the comments are, this is my last point on this. If you look at the comments, many people are shocked because they have been told their entire lives what Jacob has been unfortunately told.
I didn't mention Schoenberg.
Music after 1899. Okay, Nietzsche died, I think, in 1899. Music after Nietzsche basically is gobbledygook nonsense for academics. The comments are filled with people who are saying, "Wow, what a beautiful romantic string quartet written by Schoenberg."
Is a modern Shakespeare. Notorious B.I.G. There's plenty of good music that has been created recently. None of it has been out of the coming out of the people who are formally trained.
So Stravinsky also is bad. Stravinsky was a right-wing Christian conservative. Was Stravinsky bad? Was he a Satanist?
Okay.
Was he Lutheran?
I don't know.
Was he was an
Stravinsky.
Orthodox Christian from Russia?
I
Was he a
don't
Lutheran
know.
also?
I don't know Stravinsky. Atonal music is satanic.
Okay, fine.
That was my only claim. I didn't
like-
name particular people.
Flat atonal 12-tone music, it's probably satanic, but it's also a part of the scene, and there's an element of trust in art where if somebody comes along and is able to produce amazing work and also has like an experimental phase or some shtick, even if it's a gimmick, even if it's something that makes no sense, I think it's worth looking at and taking seriously.
How much Eminem do you listen to?
I don't like Eminem.
See?
I'm a Lutheran. Yeah, I don't like Eminem. I think rap basically has gotten like I don't like old school rap. That's like my opinion about old school rap is that it's kind of overrated. I like Tribe, like everybody, but I like what the Zoomers are listening to more.
I haven't listened much to the Zoomers.
Stuff. It's noise, but I like it.
Sounds like you would, yeah.
What Jake, about you? Yeah.
So I generally listen to. So I like Persian music.
Yeah.
Haide is one of my favorites. Here I can play. This won't get a copyright strike. Here, let's see. Let's see if you like my music.
Most people have no clue that in 2023
you need ad block, Jacob.
Amazon is not
Awesome.
I am sorry to subject you to Kol Isha. I know your mock pit.
That rocks. In general, Persian music rocks. Arabic music rocks. I had a very serious Arabic music phase recently.
I mean, I like any popular music. I think folk music, any music that you can dance to, that people, any music that's popular, because I think that is how you measure the greatness of music, is how many different people it can. That is how art is best understood, is by its capacity to unify people from different backgrounds and different in different ways, and which is why I think atonality is an attempt to do that which is opposite of art.
I don't want to belabor the point, so we can move on. But you're like half right.
Okay.
So that's a D-, but I mean, weighted average. C-.
Are you actually TAing for any courses? No.
No, not this semester.
Okay.
Right now I'm in a Baroque music phase, Jacob, and I don't know if that's a period of music you've checked out too much. But
to actually dox Max, he is
do not.
PhD. He is a PhD student in music. So that's
but we don't have to talk. Like, I don't even like to talk about music.
You don't like to talk about music?
No.
Like, why are you getting a PhD in music?
No, that's why. Because nobody knows anything, and because I want to sit and like write and just like have my opinions be true instead of having to be subjected to Philistinism on air, basically. No, look, I like everything, literally all of it. I hear you about popular music. I have to ask,
what is 100 gecs?
100 gecs is the ultimate. It's the epitome of Gen Z music in the sense that it is schizophrenic computer music made by transgender teenagers on Discord. It sounds amazing to me. I think it's super impressive, and it started an entire musical movement. But please don't play it.
Okay.
I literally beg you to not put on 100 gecs.
Okay.
It's not even going to be funny. It's not going to be like Cranky Jacob here. No, it's like you're not going to like it. I think it's really interesting, but I'm kind of over it. It was big a couple years ago, hyperpop.
Okay.
But yeah, hyperpop. It's cool. I like seeing it live because basically a friend of mine who I won't name, but is a pretty well-connected music video director. Our mutual friend was putting on a show, playing his own hyperpop music with a couple of other like teenagers and early 20-somethings. I say that like I'm not one of them, but we go to this thing, and I mean, when you see young people totally commit to an aesthetic and an art movement that is so young and is so entirely based online, but their arms and their hair, like everything is augmented to fit the aesthetic of this thing that just popped up online like 5 years ago. When you see people commit to things like that, it's always interesting to see what comes out of it. I mean, people go hard. It is like a freak show. This concert was a freak show. People dressed insane. I had never seen people. It was like steampunk 2030, 20XX future gender benders. It was awesome.
How does that even get into something new? Steampunk's like been around forever.
How are you
in the
an
sense that
Orthodox Jew?
Steampunk in the sense that it's like techie and like weird. I don't mean literally steampunk, but
you realize in the Hasidic community you're not allowed to go to concerts, right?
What is Hasidic community? Like, what does that mean? Like, what?
Who?
Like who? Like what?
Like Hasidim don't go to concerts with mixed eating. Chas v'shalom.
Okay.
You don't care.
Do you know the story of the Vilna Gaon in prison with the bread?
No.
So normally Jews commit, if they're going to commit crime, it's going to be a white collar crime. But in this case, the Vilna Gaon was arrested at some point when he exiled himself. I heard this from Rav Breitowitz. He exiled himself as a young man, and he ended up being arrested because he didn't have his papers, whatever. They just had to throw him in prison for like one night. And the person that he was in his cellmate was a murderer who was also Jewish, like an actual murderer, a hitman. So comes the next morning, and he does Natilas Yadayim in the prison cell. And he says to the Jew, would you like to do the ritual hand washing that we Jews do every morning? And the murderer looks at him like, are you out of your mind? He explodes at him. He says, you don't understand. I'm a murderer. You think God, these hands have been covered in a dozen people's blood. And I had fun doing it. You think God wants me to wash these hands with your little thing? You think God cares about this little ritual? And without even thinking, the Vilna Gaon said, yeah, what does one have to do with the other? Okay, you're a murderer. And also God wants you to follow Jewish law. Okay, like you're a murderer, and you also, that doesn't putter you from Natilas Yadayim al pi halacha. Like, wash your hands, idiot. That is my attitude in Avodas Hashem. Like you went to the degenerate concert with the degenerate people. Okay. I just hit Havdalah 2 hours ago. Whatever.
I love it. I love it. Max, you are very welcome on my Bible study on sex, because you didn't look at the title of the Bible study before you jumped on.
Wait, this is Bible.
Yeah, this is Bible study on sex.
Are you kidding? I didn't. Where does it say that?
Look at the top.
Oh my God! It says Bible study on sex.
Yeah,
Jacob, we've been shooting the breeze about everything but sex. Well,
sex. Well, we should talk about sex then.
I read a really bad book on the Bible and sex that for some reason Rabbi Lord Jacob Sachs, alav shalom, gave a haskama to.
What was the name of it?
The Bible and Seduction, something like that.
Why
Seducing the
was it
Bible.
so
I don't.
bad?
Uninspired and unoriginal.
Okay, haskamas aren't for being inspired and original. A haskama is to say that that what it teaches is kosher.
I'm not sure if it was even that, to be honest with you.
Has Bible study ever stayed on topic? No, that's
the
point of my Bible studies.
What is there to say? Like, it's don't have sex before marriage, and also if you're a Jew.
Where'd you get that from?
I'm gonna hold my tongue.
Where'd you get the idea that the Bible says it's not a deoraisa not to have sex before marriage?
The Rambam seems to say that
what?
If I remember correctly, that all sexual activity before marriage is a deraisa lo aseh, because you assume women are all in nida. And if you're having sex before marriage...
Okay, so if she's a nida...
okay.
Uh-oh. Now we're getting
she's
serious.
a nida...
When the tune comes out, it starts to be really a problem.
Then it could be a deoraisa. And that's why in religious communities, women who are not married are not allowed to come to the mikveh. They will not allow women to come to the mikveh if they're not married.
Which, by the way, I don't know if that's a very good strategy. Maybe it is. But
the fact is, if she wants to, she can go to the beach. Like, yeah.
Right. But then you're doing that.
What do you mean? She's toiveling.
Well, she has to go to the beach and be naked with kavana. Like, what are the odds that this doesn't...
Hold on. Where did you get this idea that she has to have kavana?
I looked. It's a sugya I haven't looked at. I'm assuming kavana is required for a woman to be
for tevila.
To go in the mikveh.
Tevila does not require kavana.
I didn't know that.
I had never heard of anybody say tevila requires kavana. Chatzitza is a problem, but okay, chatzitza is a whole other thing. But that's whatever.
Hilchos Ishus, Aleph, Halacha
Yeah.
Dalid. A
Yeah.
person who has relations with a woman for the sake of lust without kedushin, marriage, receives kedushin is actually engagement, so maybe before marriage, but after engagement, receives lashes.
So if you
as
have
prescribed
sex,
yes, as prescribed by the Torah because he
Yes.
had relations with a harlot.
okay,
Those are harsh words.
This is exactly what I said to Sandy at the very beginning. That if you specifically have in mind that it's Lashem Znut, that it is for harlotry, that is prohibited from the Bible. Yes.
I didn't know that.
Now you know. We learned halacha about sex in Bible study. We're done.
That
So
was a lot easier than the music topic.
So, Jacob, speaking of Tzfat, although this has nothing to do with Tzfat, but
Yeah.
speaking about the kind of people that like Tzfat, I once went to an academic, a Jewish higher learning institution in the land of Israel.
Yeah.
And one of the topics, one of the shiurim that was given was sex and marriage in Jewish law.
Yeah.
And like literally immediately, somebody asked, is it true that the Ramban says you can have a girlfriend? And the rabbi, the mashpia, said, there has not been a single semester at this yeshiva, like not a single instance of me giving this lecture where some American who's kind of interested in Jewish spirituality has not asked me if the Ramban says he can have a girlfriend.
Rabbi Breitowitz actually got, in one of his Q&As, got asked about Pelegesh and the Ramban. Yeah.
When people ask me, I just say I poskin like Shlomo HaMelech in that, whatever, 1,000 wives. Diplomacy, like, whatever.
Considering we're not kings, what's the problem? It says a king should not have too many wives.
Okay, well, that's a different. It's actually the opposite. Ramban, I think, holds that it's only a king. That can.
What do you mean? It's one of the 613, I believe, is that a king cannot have too many wives.
Right, but it's hold on. It's also true that if you are not a melech, you can't have one to begin with. I believe.
Multiple wives?
A pelegesh.
Oh, Pelegesh.
Boom.
Okay, a Pelegesh is a concubine. Whether or not you're, I don't know the Ramban's shita.
I misspoke. Maimonides believed that concubines are reserved strictly for kings. Excuse me, and that a commoner may not have a concubine.
Okay, so according to Maimonides, you cannot have a concubine.
Yeah. I guess
no concubines for you, Max. You have to get married.
Darn. Assuming we poskin that way, I might. Concubines. Trey, I already have so many that I'm so in the game that it's too late. Like I might as well have some kind of excuse, some way around it. I can't stop. I have literally,
hundreds of girlfriends.
You don't understand that this looks like an unassuming room, just whatever. In truth, I live in a castle, and in the various chambers and rooms are literally my 3,000 wives. Jacob, you're telling me this now?
That you're only.
You're now letting me know that
Yeah. Shadow decided she doesn't want to be on screen.
I know another Hebrew speaker who named her cat Mazikin.
Mazikin.
Demon. Yeah. What's yours named again? It's
Salmavet.
Salmavet. It's shadow. Okay.
Yeah, Shadow of Death, and that's
Close.
the Valley of the Shadow of Death. Although she no longer goes now that she can climb up onto the top of the. So you see that bookcase? I have another one over there, and
Yeah.
she's learned how to get up there, and now that's become her favorite place, and she barely ever goes in there anymore.
So you have a picture of the Nuka on your wall.
I do,
So he is your Rebbe.
in a sense. I used to have a picture of the Rebbe up there, but after Gershi wrote his horrible thing, I decided I have to do tshuva.
I still haven't read it. I've only heard about it, but it's talked about like pretty frequently
By me.
by you and people who you deal with.
Yeah, you talked about Gershi's thing with other people.
Like I overheard somebody mentioning Gershon, I guess would be Gershi's article while you and I were having another conversation, meaning your very presence like provoked
A conversation about Gershi.
yeah, somebody being reminded of your feud with him. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, Gershi went and started his own yeshiva because Tomchei Tamimin wasn't Mishachist enough for him.
What's his last name? You're gonna have to remind me.
He's Ranya's brother,
Right, but
Avtson.
ooh,
It's on Chabad Online.
What's going on with Chabad?
What is going on with Chabad?
I just I don't always understand. As I was saying to you, it's not that I can't understand stuff like this going on at some point in history, but to think that there are still 30 years later people arguing about whether or not the Rebbe fits the Rambam's definition of Mashiach. I can't even say those words without laughing because it's basically like it's like a joke already, kind of, to me. And every couple months it comes up again in my life for some reason.
Look,
Maybe there's something to be learned.
The people who are serious about it and understand things don't. For them, it's not a question of whether the Rebbe is Bechezkas Mashiach now. It's a question of whether he was ever Bechezkas Mashiach.
Well, it's no question he was.
There are people who would argue with that. And if you say that
not
he
Moshe Feinstein, not Moshe Feinstein.
What do you mean?
Also from Rav Breitowitz, I know you know the anecdote that a bunch of real Misnagdim went to Rav Moshe Feinstein's Zatzal, and they said these crazy Lubavitchers think their rabbi is the Messiah, and he didn't even flinch. He said, "Well, what would be so wrong about that?"
Okay, yeah.
But that was when he was alive, obviously.
Yeah, what would be so wrong about that is not that's the first thing. Like, if somebody believes somebody is Mashiach, like, your first thing is, well, what? Okay, like, I might not also believe it, but why would I oppose you believing it?
Do people? Well,
You oppose his reading material, and that's a lot less significant.
Oh, like, not as a religious. I mean, obviously James Joyce is Bittul Torah, but that's Chezi questions whether he was, but that's because Chezi is a Zionist.
So here's another funny thing about what is Bittul Zman and isn't. Do you know the anecdote? I believe it's L'Shem Harav Mikotsk, the Kotzker Rebbe.
Yeah, what did the Kotzker Rebbe say?
So I believe it's in Pirkei Avos. It says if you look up from your Torah study and
Yeah.
you notice the beautiful natural world, you're
Yeah.
chayev misa, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not chayev misa, but you've endangered your life, whatever it
Yeah,
says.
yeah.
So he teaches it. That's only when you look up and you see the beautiful world around you, and you don't see that as a part of the Torah learning.
Okay.
What you
What's so
call Bittul Zman, I call Torah.
James Joyce, you think is part of
Okay,
Torah?
I'm kidding.
The Lil of a Chas.
No, that was a joke. I mean, just in general about, I have a much more, I'm open to things. I'm a Rav Kook guy.
Yeah.
I like science. I like literature. Like whatever. The
Chaz-
Baal Hasulam, Schluso Yagan Aleinu,
Yeah.
read Marx in the original German. He read Nietzsche in the German. He read Schopenhauer.
Okay.
I'm not more from than the Baal Hasulam.
You're not even close to being as frum as the Baal HaSulam.
I'm saying
that's why you're not allowed to learn study the such things. You haven't forcared.
Maybe. I'm sort of skimming this Gimel Tama's article and kind of already getting bored of it.
Gershie's article?
Yeah. What did I say?
So Chezi might join us in 10 minutes if we're still going.
Probably be out of here by the we'll see. Anyways, yeah, sex. I don't know. Like whatever, man.
Trey, you're in Puerto Rico. Why?
Trey's in Puerto Rico?
He's in Puerto Rico and he's listening to this. Why he would do that? I have zero idea.
Yeah, don't you have premarital sex to be having right now in Puerto Rico?
Exactly. That's what I keep on telling him. I keep on telling Trey, I would prefer you marry any girl you knock up. Before you knock her up would be preferable, but after works too.
Can I show you something that I saw?
No, you can't show me anything. No.
Right.
We have to stay on track. Why are you derailing this?
So this is actually about sex. This is about this
conversation has to be on specific topics here.
This is about premarital sex in a religious framework, in an Abrahamic framework.
Yeah.
I saw a meme today.
Yeah.
Motzei Shabbat.
Yeah.
And at first I just I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And then I realized it may be brilliant. Okay. Now I don't want to hold it up to this thing because I think that'll be backwards, eh? Oh. Now if you see that's a woman falling on a sword.
Understanding of teleology.
And the desire to have premarital sex being split in half by her, quote, understanding of teleology. Now, this is basically gobbledygook. This is basically religious studies 101 gobbledygook because that none of these words belong in this picture.
Yeah.
And I at first misread it and thought it said my knowledge of theology. And I was like, that makes even less sense. I don't know. It was an interesting picture to come across, but young people talk like this.
Lots of young people are very confused and need to learn more Torah. Because people your age are not having premarital sex, Hashem Yirachem Aleinu.
They are and they aren't. The culture's vulgar, but the statistics don't lie. People are generally less sexually active now than they were in the 90s.
Much
and 80s.
less. Yeah, much less. And say, I would like there to be less premarital sex because people were getting married. But people aren't getting married. They're just not having sex. They're spending their time masturbating mostly.
Yeah, the flip side of spending their time masturbating is you get some pretty strange purity culture spiraling online with the birth of nofap, people who overcorrect and become essentially asexual gym rats.
Yeah, asexual is a problem. NoFap is supposed to be a way towards recognizing that your sexuality belongs to actual interhuman relations.
NoFap guys don't have girlfriends.
Well, that's a problem.
I think it's more like Wilhelm Reich in the sense that they believe that they can literally take sexual energy and funnel it into like getting up early, taking cold showers, and going to the gym. Like it's like an actual avenue. It's more like a form of witchcraft or alchemy than a
It's monk mode. It is.
monk mode. Bingo. Joy is absolutely correct. Monk mode, which is an amazing, amazing term that I'm being reminded of. Thank you, Joy. It's monk mode.
Yeah.
There's something that was being talked about in another channel about the whole cold shower thing and some. Oh, what? Hey, there was a book they were all reading, or supposed to be reading.
My cat is going to destroy everything.
Wow.
Stop destroying things. I need those papers.
You want to know the truth, Jacob?
Stop it. I need this. She's going to destroy everything.
She just wants to learn Torah.
No, she doesn't.
Probably more.
Oh, did I show you this?
Yes. I said that it debunks Marx because as soon as you bought it, it immediately went up in value because it's worth nothing. And in like a year, you could flip it on eBay for maybe a couple bucks.
Yeah, it's a €0 Marx souvenir thing. I bought a bunch of them as gag gifts for my Marxist friends. I should give one to Trey.
Marxist.
Trey has been completely brainwashed by wokeism.
Really?
Apparently, monk mode is different from NoFap.
Oh. Could we get an explanation?
Trey, you're in Puerto Rico. You should
Trey, I'll be honest with you. No, I don't go to the gym, but I used to. And I used to be quite strong, at least strong looking. I was really into
You were buff?
There was a time when I was pretty buff. I was really into Mike Menser, who I'm sure Trey knows about. Mike Menser for life. He was always second fiddle to Arnold in the 80s, but he's, now that the dust has settled, he's kind of the alternate path for the gym bro, I would say, the more learned gym bro. He's going to be into Mike Menser. He was really into philosophy and stuff. Yeah, I looked pretty good, but I basically just gave it up. It's just I didn't like eating chicken and rice and milk all day.
So before I forget, everybody should go onto the PayPal site and donate to Fountain of Comfort. Do you know what the Hebrew for Fountain of Comfort is, Max?
Something Nechama.
Mayan Menachem. There's a link in the description to this video, and we are a registered 501c3. So your contributions are tax deductible, and Fountain of Comfort is a public resource for mental health. And I expect everybody who watches my channel to at least give $5 a month.
So Joy, Trey, and William are getting into the specifics here. Monk mode means no sex. NoFap means no pornography or masturbation, but you can have sex.
That's good.
Possibly healthier. Insane.
Call me a Marxist and I will hop on. Trey, you're doing sex tourism in the global south. Go just get her done, and then you can, get over yourself, get it out of your system, and then learn some Torah.
Trey, you're in Puerto Rico. Go get laid.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure Puerto Rico's really actually cool.
Khezi wants a link. Should I let Khezi on here?
Sure, but I should probably get going. I'm gonna say hello to your friend, and then I'm gonna make a friend. Of course, I've already made friends with Sandy.
For a minute.
Sorry?
You've never watched anything with Khezi before? Khezi's on here
I'm-
all the time.
When I say I'm a fan of yours, vis-a-vis your YouTube channel,
You're just
I've seen
joking.
a handful of videos.
Arguing on the internet is more important. I can have sex anytime. Yeah, because you can't argue online, whatever.
The thing is, I literally believe this.
What?
That it's more important to argue online than to like have any kind of human interaction in the real world.
You are such a kofar.
So I got into like
that is completely the opposite of everything Torah.
So the last time I got like really into an argument, it literally lasted like through Shabbos, in the sense that like 5 minutes before candles, I'm like firing away. I'll tell you in a second what I was arguing about. You're gonna get a kick out of it. And then Motzei Shabbos, Havdalah, pick up my phone. I'm back online. I was arguing with a deacon in the Orthodox Church about whether or not Justin Martyr was a Trinitarian. And
He was a Binitarian.
Duh. Like, he was obviously a heretic according to any Orthodox understanding of the Trinity post Justin Martyr, basically, or post.
Khezi, what happened to your beard again?
It comes and goes.
No, last time it went, it was because you mistakenly shaved by mistake.
No, that's when it went like fully gone. Yeah, I never clean shave, unless I messed up. But I go through phases. There's longer beards. There's a mustache. There's no beard. It really, my wife decides.
Max, what's your Hebrew name?
Mordechai.
Simcha.
Of course.
Mordechai
Simcha. Oh, okay. So
Max.
Yechezkel Halevi.
Yechezkel Shraga Halevi.
Shraga.
So tzaddik.
And all my sons also have a Levi in their name. 3 names. It's long names. There's always a gabbai that can't stand it when I get an aliyah. It's always an issue. Them arguing with me. It's not really your name. Then I find myself like, why am I here arguing with the gabbai in the middle of shul?
Hold on. You make them say Yechezkel Shraga Halevi ben Moshe Halevi.
Well, my father's second name is Halevi and my third name is Halevi. So it's Yechezkel Shraga Halevi ben Moshe Halevi Levi.
So you guys actually named yourself Halevi as a name? Okay, I understand. The Gabbais are right. You guys are just bad at being Jewish.
It's okay.
Having a chashiv name is extremely Jewish, actually.
Exactly. I usually, after the gabbai reads my name, I stop and I just slow stare at the whole shul, just like to build up, like, the gravitas of that name, and then I actually take it on.
Khezi, can I ask you a question? And
Please
also
do.
Jacob and Sandy, although I think especially Khezi's gonna maybe know how this goes. I went my entire life thinking I was a Stam Yisrael. Today, my dad tells me, and for background, everybody in my family is Jewish, but pretty much haven't been religious for a couple generations, with some exceptions. My dad tells me, long story short, I got really into my family's lineage, and it made him, and like doing some research on my own a couple weeks ago, he ended up talking to a cousin who lives in like the Carolinas or something, who said, by the way, I think your grandfather's a Kohen.
Oh.
And my dad is like thrilled. He's like, we're priests. And I'm like, is that too far? Like, there needs to be a chazakah. It's been 4+ generations.
It doesn't matter. Look,
It's two cousins of his. Two cousins of
Okay,
his.
no,
He
no, no.
called and they said, "I think I remember hearing that."
okay, no, I remember hearing of that doesn't help. But if you're doing genealogy, like your family, where's your family from?
Europe, but I mean, you want to know where specifically?
You can find gravestones.
Oh, I
And-
have some.
If you have gravestones, they will say if your grandfather or great grandfather's gravestone says HaKohen, then you're a Cohen.
And if it
As long
doesn't-
as they're who's somebody's echoing. Okay, echoing stop. As long as all of their wives have been not halals, like they didn't marry someone who they're not allowed to marry.
Like a divorcee.
Yeah.
So okay, you're telling me, and I have no opinion either way. It doesn't make my life easier or harder, but there's no
it
way I'm a
will
Cohen
make your life harder if you're a Cohen.
If you're Cohen.
That's not that's not necessarily true that there's no way you're a Cohen. It could just means you're not an active Cohen. Like there could be a ramification. For example, if you had a firstborn son, he might not,
Oh, so he might be a halal?
well, he might
Yeah,
not
it's
need to do a
possible he
pigeon.
might be a halal. Yeah. You might be a halal. Yeah, but look.
You're
do you
special in
have-
my book, Max.
Do you have
Oh.
do you have the gravestones of
I have them on my
great-grandfather?
computer. I was just looking, but they're already not the generation that would matter. Meaning they've already
Right.
been in America for a while, and like
No, you need a gravestone that says HaKohen on it. That's
I definitely do not have that.
Well, how long has your family been in America?
Let's see. My dad's in his 70s, and it's his great grandfather.
Okay, so you do have his great grandfather's gravestone or not?
No, I have my dad's grandfather, for like that generation down.
Okay, why just find the gravestones and let's take a look at them.
Okay, I have them somewhere. I'm already, now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, okay, there's no way.
No, unless they were
Because
in-
that's-
somewhere that the Germans destroyed the gravestones will be there. You're not Sephardi. The Ashkenazim, you can go back 4 or 5 generations easy in Europe.
Yeah.
Look, they found the census records of the Baal Shem Tov. Did you see that?
Yeah, when he's not paying taxes, you mean the one where it tells? Have you seen that?
Really? It says he's exempt for some reason. Yeah, because he's a.
No, it means he wasn't paying them.
I thought he was
Yeah.
exempt anyway. Yeah. Good night, Joy. It was nice having you.
I just don't think this is a woman. Harold.
I'm just looking something up as well.
Hirschbar, Ben Moshe. Okay, on my dad's dad, definitely not. Charlotte, no. I remember thinking I had more.
It's not looking good.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm if anything, that's just more halacha that I don't know, that I don't like have to know.
What's not looking good, Chezi?
No,
No, that he'll still be able to be considered a Cohen right now. There's
Yeah,
like a lot of there's
I
a
hope
lot of
not.
doubt.
I
If
hope
your
not.
grandfather's, yeah, the biggest thing is it becomes hard to go on shidduch.
I just looked at my dad's father and my dad's father's father's gravestones.
Mm.
Yeah.
No
And they say
indication
what are the
whatsoever.
names? What do you mean by
What are
no
the
indication?
names? Oh,
Like
because
because
it
it could
doesn't say.
be Cohen, Khan, Katz,
No,
Azullah. Like
no. It's not, it just had their Hebrew name and then like their English name.
Mhm.
One of them didn't even have a Hebrew name. There's
Mhm.
no like Cohen. There's no anything on.
Yeah,
there.
if it's already your great grandfather, like
Yeah.
100 years ago, people even if they became secular, as long as there's a Hebrew name on it, they would have said.
Yeah. Let me see again.
Dumb question while you're looking things up. So, what happens if you don't know the Hebrew name?
Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, my mom doesn't have a Hebrew name.
Well, one second. If you have, and if you get called up to the Torah and you never had a Hebrew name, then
They'll give you one.
yeah, they'll give you one. Is then like Ben Avraham?
Yeah, everybody's been Avraham.
Okay, so there's 0% chance, right?
Yeah, if your great grandfather's tombstone has Hebrew on it and it doesn't say Cohen, yeah, I would say 0 chance. Like even Reform back then still, like if it's a gravestone from the 1800s that doesn't have a Cohen on it, I would be shocked.
There you go. It's kind of an interesting bomb to be dropped. And then
If you had someone, one witness, you don't need two, one witness to say that you're a Cohen, you could then, it's fine to give you an aliyah or things like that, but and you could give him
the thing is, I don't want to even enter into like
the question. Yeah,
like I literally like looked with trepidation at my dad today. I was like, don't tell me we have to like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I mean if you're great, you just
and
look at your great grandfather's tombstone and it doesn't have.
I'm also his son from a second marriage.
That wouldn't matter as long as it wasn't your mom's second marriage.
Really, a Cohen can remarry?
A Cohen can
remarry.
Yeah, a Cohen can marry again if his
Just
wife.
He can't marry a. I see.
Yeah, he can't marry a divorcee.
Interesting.
I mean, then it says it requires like, you know, if your dad was like, no, like we're saying, we don't know about your dad either. Are there two people? No.
I mean, if his great grandfather's tombstone doesn't have it, why are you bothering me? Like, forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just see Max over here crying. I want to help him.
I'm just desperate. My mom
Max,
overheard this. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little, if I missed it before, your story?
Yeah, I'm from California, and I became religious in college. That's about it.
Are you religious? Are you religious now?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, whatever. I don't think about it like that.
He's Shomer Shabbat.
How do you think about it?
The way that the Rebbe did, which is
Okay.
that you know, you're a Jew, you're doing as many mitzvahs as you can.
It's a very wide path. No one's falling off the path.
I keep Shabbos, like I daven, I learn, I eat treif, the usual stuff.
I mean, that still sounds more from than most Jews in human history. So, okay. So, and what was, you mentioned that like most of the family was secular. What was the impetus to become religious, observant in college?
It was around COVID. I had a lot of time to myself, and I had always been interested in like basically the issue of Judaism and Christianity. That was basically like something. I'll tell you, the reason why I took that issue seriously is because I read Nietzsche in high school, and Nietzsche is somebody who takes very seriously the issue, not issue like problem, but the sugya of Judaism. Even though he didn't believe in God, he didn't believe in anything, but he took it very seriously, and he writes with like trepidation and seriousness and like actually clarity in some places about Judaism, Jewish life, Jewish culture, and the relationship between Jews and Christianity and living in Christian Europe. And I'd never in my entire life heard anybody, Jew or Gentile, take the Hebrew Bible and the God of the Hebrew Bible and the people that he chose to give a law to. I'd never in my life heard it taken so seriously. And so a couple years later, like it was like on my radar. It was like an interesting like thing to check out. And then
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then COVID, I had a lot of time to really get into the stuff, and yeah, I decided to become religious. And then after that, I started going to Chabad shul. And
how long were you in Israel?
Oh, like a month.
Oh.
I didn't really do like the whole like thing.
Yeshiva thing?
That's not where I went crazy. I went crazy in like LA.
Yeah,
Um,
I highly recommend taking a year to actually go to a yeshiva and actually sit and learn.
Everyone is like, I know, but the thing is, I don't think that's I had a great time when I was there, but it's not really my vibe. Like,
what's your vibe?
what I like about religion and about Torah, literally
Mhm.
the Torah, but also Torah B'chlal,
Mhm.
is not the kind of thing, I don't think, that yeshivas do best. So,
Yeah, not like gap year yeshivas, correct?
but
But
yeshiva, maybe. Okay, I mean, maybe, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's me.
well, what do you? I mean, like if Ki Mitzion Tetzet Torah Udvar Hashem Yerushalayim. If you want to get the good stuff, it's here.
I hear you and agree, and tasted it when I was there.
Right, and
But
and if it requires being like there's different strokes for different folks. There's different yeshivas over here. There's different methodologies. Some more. I mean, and in general, yeshivas are sort of. Again, it depends which ones you go to, but like I was in yeshiva for years. I wasn't like I didn't have to go to classes or anything like that. I did my thing. I created I forged my own path and went to the classes I wanted to go to, studied the books I wanted to study. But it's more about, as my father said it, when I went to yeshiva, it was a 6-year process, but that it's called the Yam Shel Torah, the ocean of Torah.
yeah.
And he said, over these years, you are free to drown. There's no responsibility. You don't have to come home. You don't have to call. Just learn. Just study. You don't have to do anything. You could just swim in these waters for, in theory, a limited amount of time. I'm very envious of that time right now because I don't know when I'm going to have like that kind of unadulterated Torah learning time. But if you do have a chance for that, which is just time to sit with the text and let them ruminate and allow you to sort of explore them. So obviously do your thing, but if it's nervous that you're going to go to a school that's going to try to flip you or that's going to be very rigid, then obviously you have to do a little due diligence. But there's schools that are I think better framed for someone like you.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Everything you said is true, by the way, but it's like then you have to put pedal to the metal and really do it. And when I did like a summer program at a yeshiva, like a Chabad yeshiva, the Baal Tshuva yeshiva, it was great. But as soon as I left, it was great in the way that like a cool new restaurant is great. It wasn't like, oh my God, I found, and I get those different kinds of yeshivas, but it wasn't like I want to be in yeshiva. It was like, that was a really cool experience and it's going to set up the way I approach learning on my own or with my rabbi. But
you haven't learned Talmud until you crack.
I have not like I'm not one of these guys.
Until you crack your head on a daf of Talmud, you don't know what it's like.
I've ultimately love relationship with Talmud, but I was gonna say like a love-hate relationship. Like I don't know. I obviously Talmud is a fundamental part of our Torah learning. However, I in the words of Rav Kook, still see it as ultimately the great band-aid of exile, and it's a default. It's not the. We were exiled.
Hey,
100%.
Matt, I have a question for you.
For me, yeah.
When you started out in the conversation here with Jacob, you argued long and hard for Joyce and for the 12-note. And yet, when you're talking here and now, you're talking about the smallest thing you can take and the limitation. And I'm thinking, I'm not Jewish, but if I was you, if you want to go and hear the fullest music and you want to take in all of that stuff you argued for, is that really in the bite-sized things?
I mean, here's the thing. Part of the thing is that, as Chezi pointed out, and as Jacob actually used the same analogy the other day, we were talking, you can literally drown and die in the amount of information there is to know.
Yes.
And part of me worries, like, what in the world will come of me if I were to be in an environment where I was literally floating and just had like nothing but time on my hands to learn Jewish.
I'm just getting jealous hearing you just like articulate.
Like, I
this
don't
right
know. That's like a pretty intense, you know. And Joyce is safe because there's no, you know, reading Joyce doesn't make you do anything. Whereas, you know, what if I learned so much Talmud that I actually start eating kosher?
Maybe
That's a
you
big
can
problem.
You're a Lutheran.
All that music
You're a
was
Lutheran.
Okay, Jacob, if you say the L word on this stream one more time, I'm going
New
to.
bingo thing.
Yeah.
L word.
Max, I would say, using the analogy of the kings of Israel, they were supposed to have a Sefer Torah with them, and they then have another little Sefer Torah that they write, that they have with them, and it says when he comes and he goes. Basically, he needs to have this, and people have interpreted this into, you know, he has like this mini little Sefer Torah for his travel, you know, for his traveling. But there are interpretations where, yes, he has that Torah there, and the analogies of it, like you need to put in the work and the time of like drowning, so to speak. But at some point, even the king then has a more dynamic, smaller Torah that comes and goes, which needs to be dynamic as life around him changes and the things around him change. He's always going to have to reference that Torah back to the original Torah that he has in his vault or in his room. But if you want to, let's say, confidently, and that doesn't mean you have a standard by other people's standard, but if you want to be able to play with your Jewish Oculus, then you need to download the apps and the features. And the only way that's going to happen is if sitting and like actually loading your Oculus, your Jewish Oculus, like with the proper information. At that point, you decide how you want to use your features, right? Right now we're seeing Jacob, the way he looks at X is through feature 1, and the way I look at X is through feature 2, or I put on my Rav Cook glasses and I have a whole different experience, which he doesn't want to tap into necessarily, which is totally fine, but he's aware of that feature and he's deciding to not tap into it. But if you are not going to allow yourself to quote unquote drown in that, then I think you are just basically not opening up the App Store.
I see. That's a good analogy with the Sifrei Torah. Jacob warned me that you're a big Zionist, but what Jacob knows
only like God and all the Jewish people. So
yeah,
not a big deal.
What Jacob doesn't,
I'm not a Jewish person anymore.
What Jacob doesn't know is that I also am a Rav Cook guy, and now we have him totally outnumbered as far as Jewish men in this
Rav Cook.
So
Rav Cook was
Hatzadik
to pass away
Hagadol b'Torah
before Yom HaAtzmaut. He was zoche to die before such a shanda happened to the Jewish people.
You say shanda, you're immediately disqualified from any.
Sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
What did Rav Cook think about Jonah? I'm listening to you talk about your resistance to drowning, and I'm thinking, for crying out loud, I come in here, I want to learn Hebrew. What do I get told? Start with Jonah. It's the easiest book. How can you possibly learn something if you're not willing to drown it? And God kept him safe.
That's a very, very strong point. I have to ask, is it true that Jonah is the easiest book to read in Hebrew?
Yeah.
Is that like a
probably?
Thing?
Yeah. So in Christian seminaries, they always start with Jonah because the Hebrew is like the most primitive, and so if you go through the 4 chapters of Jonah, like you get like something like 50-60% of Hebrew words and stuff, and so that are in the Hebrew Bible. So yeah, Jonah's a very
interesting.
Yeah,
I would use following Sandy's example here. A better example would be Nachshon ben Aminadav, the one that jumped into the Sea of Reeds before God split it.
Yeah.
And that's very, I don't know if that's where it comes from, like getting it over your head, but that is very much like you sometimes need to jump and just believe. And he is very much in literal water. And the Midrash says that like at some point the water already got to Higiu Mayim ad Nafesh.
Yeah.
Right? It got up until his nose, and that's also where air comes. So that's why it's connected to Nafesh. But at that point it opened up. But But there's something to that. There's something about tapping into your Nachshon ben Aminadav, and assuming it's something that it's something that you that you believe in. And just as far as like the Jonah symbolism, like yes, obviously drowning, looking inwards. There's also multiple fish, so there's different levels of looking inward, and the fish shows them like where the Israelites, according to the Midrash, the Israelite crossed the Sea of Reeds, and that's all have to do with like Jonah connecting back to his roots after he's trying to run away from that. So yeah, there's obviously like a lot of internal psychological work going on at the time. What makes it fantastic is just that it's so long ago and still relevant today.
Yeah, the water analogy is the only analogy because it just shows up constantly. I think Yehoshua
and this parsha.
For sure. I was going to say I think the Haftorah for Simchas Torah, if I remember correctly, is the first parak of Yehoshua, where basically it's either there or the next chapter. But and I might be misremembering this totally, or the order of things. But Moses dies. Joshua becomes the leader of Israel. The question is Joshua going to be able to do what Moses did? And God promises him, to your point about the ancientness of Torah and Torah scholarship, God promises Joshua, I am going to be with you, and you're going to do what Moses did for your people. And the first thing that they do is they cross the Jordan, which is a micro version of the Sea of Reeds. And to your point about and to what we're all kind of talking about, the overwhelmingness of what there is to know, kind of arguing against myself here, but it's like it's happened before, it'll happen again. Like if you believe that the promises God makes are for real, the fact that he immediately after following Moses' death makes a kind of promise to somebody who is by no means Moses that he will be able to do in some small way for his people in his time what Moses did, then how much what makes us different? What makes any Jew different? What makes any person different?
Not at all. This is, very much like, first of all, obviously, Imloach Shav Ematai, right? Like, when are you going to be doing this? And I'm totally fine with your interpretation of like Pirkei Avos with like, if it says that if you stop from your learning to look at an Ilan or look at a tree, there's an issue with that. And I'm with you that like, the Torah you could have could be wider than that. That like but to be fair though, in the commentary there, the Ilan, they are aware of the fact that you even make a bracha on an Ilan, right? So they're not just saying you're looking at Ilan as nothing. They recognize its value, but they're saying it's secondary. Yeah. Basically, but obviously you can decide, that seeing, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and like appreciating that is also obviously a value. But the just like Yehoshua had his own fractal experience with the Dead Sea, and these patterns are
Did he freeze?
Yeah, he went on a phone call.
No phone call. I was just gonna say the pattern continues, and in your life you have your own little Red Sea, you have your own hardening of your own heart, you have your own Pharaoh. There's a fantastic song by Israeli singer called Hanan Ben Ari.
Max doesn't like music.
Okay.
Especially Israeli.
I heard the whole gobbledygook post 1800s. It's all nonsense. Blah, 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 blah. Right. Even though Freddie Mercury is amazing. I lost my train of thought.
Israeli song.
Yes, Israeli song is called Cholem Kmo Yosef. Dreaming like Joseph. But I think if you can handle the Hebrew, I think you'd appreciate listening to the song, because the whole song is basically him using all these biblical figures and saying like we all have our inner Saddam that we need to destroy. We all have our inner, Miriam, and this is very in a Petersonian kind of way. This is really touching upon the archetypes and Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. Which is why I think his music is amazing, because I think he's taking Jewish sources and music and really making a contemporary version of that. But
Sifrei Torah Vort, where did you hear that? Is that a Rav Kook take? It reminds me of, I think the Hebrew words, well, in English it's running and returning in Kabbalah.
Yeah, Ratzov
Vashov, yeah. It reminded me of that there's always going to be both you know, the crashing waves and the like dry land. It's always going to be both at the same time.
Well, it's Ratzov Ashov. It's also the motion.
Yeah.
Going
It's
back and
ratzon.
forth.
Milushin ratzon, like will. Is that the word?
Well, Ratzoveshov also has a sexual connotation.
Ratzov.
No, Ratzoveshov
Ratzov.
has a sexual connotation of separation and reunion.
Return?
Yeah.
Just bringing it back to the original live stream.
Topic of the top, yeah. We only have 10 more minutes of this live stream, and then I'm going to bed unless Fezzi wants to keep the Bible study going.
I do have to do some work, but I was gonna mention
what
to
work
you.
do you have to do? There's no more construction.
No,
like
that is true. That there's no construction happening right now, but like I still have to get people renders. I need to get people reports. There's still stuff to do. I would recommend, even though unfortunately there's not a lot of his work in English, but there is a student of Rav Kook, Rav Yuda Leon Ashkenazi, or his nickname is Mini 2, the Great Wind, which is a kick-ass name that he got from his friends, and the Great Spirit. And he really teaches Torah at in a different level, and he really does zira, a weaving of pardes, basically. The way he teaches, that is, like, as far as he's concerned, coming also from a Sephardi background, that is the only way it should be taught. All these levels together intertwined.
Yeah.
But I think you really enjoy his Torah. Very deep, very wide, and very relevant.
I will check him out. I wrote him down.
Max is a huge chassid of Joey Rosenfeld.
Huge.
Joey's great. I only have one issue with him. That's it. But it's
And
it's just that at some point, Reb Joey was just Joey, and he didn't sound like he came from Voloshin. He just spoke like an American kid. And at some point, people feel like they have to
sound Jewish. I
want to just tell him, like, you don't have to say an epis. You don't have to say epis. You don't have to speak Yiddish. Like, it's, I know, like, you watched the, Animaniacs. It's okay. Like, so we're all friends.
Here's the thing, though. First of all, you're speaking about my Rebbe, so you better watch it. No, I'm kidding.
I listen. I love
I'm totally kidding. I think I hear you, but if you look at some of the old videos of Reb Joey when he was Joey, it's not as big of a shit. He's not putting on a costume like when he was a yeshiva guy or whatever. He was like a 20-something or whatever and doing University of Torah.
This move here,
that might be
the Torah.
New. But if you had a beard like that, you would also be doing this. I barely have it.
I want to say, listen, I have the shackle built in after years. It happens when I start, if I'm learning, I start shuckling.
Yeah.
And I'm also fine with Mitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma, and he's totally in the Lishma zone, and it's all authentic at this point. My issue is usually like, when someone comes to Israel for the year, 6 months in, he's speaking Yiddish, and you're like, buddy, it's relax. It's okay.
But don't you realize that
Hezi just doesn't like Yiddish.
Avodas Hashem Bechlal is Ke'ilu. We're always acting. We're always in this in-between state of the Rutz of a show. We're always in between Lishma and Lo Lishma. It's always
I'm fine with that. My issue is like
you're acting out Chezi Sparrow. Tomorrow you're gonna wake up and pretend to be Chezi.
No, well,
and Jacob's gonna pretend to be Jacob, and Sandy's gonna pretend to be Sandy. We're all pretending.
When not our Jacob here, when forefather Jacob, when forefather Jacob post getting out of Dodge, he sits down and has his famous dream of the angels.
Yeah.
And the angels come and they tell God, we wanna end this guy. And the Midrash says they tell Hashem, like, the Yaakov down here, that we see down here doesn't match the Yaakov that we see up in heaven. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, they don't seem the same. And that's because he, at that point, still only scratched the surface of his potential. His name is still Jacob. His name doesn't even transition yet at that point. So I'm totally okay with someone coming as Kyle, and he still needs his transition to get to his and his name eventually will be Jacob. That's all fine. I don't know why the model they decide to attach themselves to is European Jewry circa 1600. Like, why don't you look like the Rambam? Why do you have a turban on your head? Like, you're like,
yeah, Chezi simply like anything that's Ashkenazi, he's totally allergic to.
Chezi, what's your actual ethnic background?
no, I have blonde hair and blue eyes, so like not genuine at some point. But I'm a Levi, so
That makes, first of all, you know what Second Temple Jewish art looks
yeah.
like.
I'm still degenerate.
So you're an Ashkenazi who hates his
I don't hate it. I mean, first of all, Ashkenazis and Sfardis both have to realize that there's a group called the Yemenites who's more authentic, and there's a group called the Ethiopians, which like there's a question about that as well. Putting that aside, well, they still eat grasshoppers, but putting that aside, I do have an issue, and obviously this is like me being a Zionist, but like we're here, we're in Israel. This is time for Torah Eretz Yisrael, not Torah Galut. And that doesn't look.
Get rid of the Torah. That's
So you're a Machon Shilo guy. You're a Machon Shilo name.
Hishtana HaTorah. Chas v'shalom. That there's.
I'm just telling you things that like our sages talk about. That there is Torah's Mashiach. That it looks different. That things do change. I'm not the guy to make the changes.
What does it say in Yigdal? Lo Yamir. It will not change.
What Lo Yamir? By the way, will not. First of all, it has changed already, right? And Nitzchuni Banai. I don't know what they're saying. He's saying Nitzchuni Banai about. Did they not change it, or did they really get to the?
Always speaking kafira. Always.
Did they really get? You could say that they really got to the truer truth, but that still looks different than what the Israelites were playing with. Just like Moshe is sitting on the 7th row listening to Rabbi Akiva teach. V'tash kocho. He doesn't have any power anymore because he has no idea what Rabbi Akiva is talking about until Rabbi Akiva says, Moshe Torah Sinai. And then he realizes that even though I did not understand this next level quantum mechanics or string theory, ultimately it's based on my basic math that I introduced the Israelites to.
Chezi, you make some good points. The Yemenite thing, though, you got to get over, because all forms of Judaism are as authentic as Teimanim style of dress and pronunciation.
What does that mean? Obviously, they're all vadai, that they're all shayach, and they're all we could validate all of them. I would say there's some that don't like. So put that aside. Forget that. Actually, there is a question though. If you're interested. If you're looking to do a birur at some point and try to understand like your minhag, where are things coming from, then there are people that are, if you're even reading the Torah, what should be my trup? What should be?
Yeah.
So,
I'm into all of that. I just think like Lamaisa, and I say Lamaisa and not Lamaaseh because I'm Ashkenazi, and because at some point I had to make the decision, how was I going to speak this language? And I chose despite being a Torah Eretz Yisrael Nick also, I nonetheless choose to speak Ashkenazi because
he listens to Machon Shilo.
No, that's not no. No. Nonetheless, I hear you on the trope, but Taurus Gullus is Torah, and
it is
the Zayar is the Torah of Gullus, and what the Yidden had to be.
I disagree with that.
Gullus. What the Yidden had to be Megala and Gullus, as Rav Kook points out, will be a part. It will be shown to have been. That's like almost
sure.
It's going to be
not second, not
like all of it. Not going to go back to Chochmah up to Kesser. It's going to be shown to be all one Torah as Hashem.
Not second day Yom Tov though, because we'll know the calendar, right?
But okay, great example. Why do we do second day Yom Tov today?
It boggles the mind.
The sanctity and love of the land of Israel. First of all, second day Yom Tov is in the Bible.
But we're back. We're back on the land. I'm here.
So you keep 2 days? What are you talking about?
Yeah, but do Jews in diaspora want to feel connected to the real, so they don't have to still have their schedule based on an exile. It's like saying
Such a kaiser.
It's not. That's
It's
not
like-
how it works,
You're
Chezi. No.
such a kaiser.
no. I by the way,
On the exile, it's because you were outside of the land of Israel. There were literally during the biblical period outside of the land of Israel, people.
but yes, but then also no, that also had to do with because of issues of scheduling issues and timing issues.
Yes.
All
Even
physical
after that was-
realities are expressions of spiritual reality.
Even
I-
after that calendar issue was solved by Hillel
Right.
Hakatan, I believe, who fixed the calendar. This is Chazal. We're not talking about some like guy in the
Yeah,
shtetl.
Chezi doesn't like Chazal.
Chazal literally come to say, sorry, there's other reasons to keep 2-day Yom Tov.
By the way,
Talmud Yerushalmi by Chezi is Torah's Golus, and we should get rid of it because it's Golus Torah.
That's A, that's not what I said. B, you said like Chazal. I don't like. Do you remember voting on Yochanan ben Zakkai's deciding to move to Yavne?
You're a kaifer because you think that you can vote for the Chachamim.
No. My
Vote for Yochanan ben Zakkai?
no. I'm not.
Such a kaifer.
My point is, it's going to require at some point leadership to make a move like him. It's not going to be a quorum.
Okay,
That's going to be like we all decided.
When
It
leader-
is. It's
when
called the
leader
Sanhedrin.
comes,
It's the
we'll
Beis
talk
Din
about it.
Hagadol of Mashiach and Eliyahu Navi. This is
Yeah,
basic
exactly.
Rambam.
Yeah, no. Chezi is one of these people who believes Chas v'Shalom that Geula has happened because
Well,
we
it's
saw
beginning.
this
It's
past
beginning.
week how
Geula did
obvious
happen.
it was that
No,
the
the
Geula
Geula
already
happened.
Jacob,
It happened.
No,
The
it-
Geula happened.
If you
This
think
is
it
the
happened,
Geula.
It's the starting point. It's not the end. It's not the goal. The Geula is not the goal. The Geula happened. We
The
now need to
Geula
take the
happened.
2000.
okay,
There's a
you're
2000 year. There's a
Okay.
2000 year.
I have no
There's-
idea why I allow this kofar on my
First
channel.
of all, Chezi,
Hashem Yerachem Aleinu.
Chezi, basic Rav Kook stuff.
Yeah.
The settling, you're right, is the beginning. That's Pashit. We say in Shemona Esrei anyways. If you look, I just learned it. I think it's Yud Zayin Amud Beis in Masechet Megillah. We were talking about Masechet Megillah earlier, Jacob. If you look at Shemona Esrei, obviously Mashiach, Geula, they happen in parts, in sections, but there's an order, and we are nowhere near the end. We
Why
are
do you say
nowhere
that?
Near the end of history, because
Why?
the Bible
Beita Achishena.
the Bible and the Talmud say that we're not at the end of history. We just had a war.
What do you? But I could point you. Listen. 1 second. Let's take a step back for a second.
I'm gonna
because
pwn you because I remember the daf and I'm gonna pull it up and you're gonna get no.
first of all, the daf also talks about Beita Achishena, Lo Zachula Achishena. Hashem can make it speedy or it could take time. Number one. Number two.
Yeah.
Be'ito.
Mr. Speaker. Number two is we do not have prophecy anymore, unfortunately. However, we could read the prophets,
Mhm.
and I don't know. You could decide to interpret what's going on as the strife between Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, and you could look at this as the great eulogy that happens in Sefer Zechariah and Perek Yud Bet, where there's a big fight coming from the outside, and there's inward fighting, and there's the secular part of Israel, and there's the religious part of Israel fighting. I don't know. And there's every family's going to have to eulogize their kid. So that seems pretty apropos for now. Is this what we're talking about right now? I don't know. I'm not someone that runs and says things like that. But there's more than enough reason if you wanted to look like Rav Kook felt comfortable enough calling Zionism Mashiach ben Yosef and Herzl potentially that person as well. And he uses the same Zechariah understanding of that pasuk.
It is true. I agree. I agree with you that this is the beginning of the end. I agree that this mass return to the land of Israel, the establishment of Jewish polity, and the Yom Kippur War, I believe there is a messianic thread running through all of it. If you deny that, you're literally a kaifer if you deny that. I agree with you. However, Zechariah later on, Yodalid, talks about the actual end. And if you think
I didn't say we're at the end. By the way, being at the Geula doesn't. I think when I say the Geula is here, and I don't no problem saying we're in parts. The Geula is the starting point.
Yes.
And
But
we had 2,000 of years of practicing what it would look like to be Jewish people. The game starts now, here, into actually embodying that.
I mostly agree. To the chagrin of Jacob. All I am saying to what you're saying is that Taurus Gullis or whatever, or everybody needs to speak Sephardi, which modern Israeli isn't even traditional Sephardi. It's literally
No,
a bastard
I'm
language
not saying
made
there
by
needs
an
to be a
Ashkenazi
monolith.
guy who hated who he was, who Rav Kook was nonetheless Makarev. Whatever. For what it's worth, I'll bring the Divrei Chazal. They're talking about the order of Shemona Esrei and why the seventh bracha of Shemona Esrei has to be not Gal Yisrael, but the bracha that talks about Geula. And they say, but isn't it so that Rabbeinu Akadosh said that in the 6th of the 7 years that precede the coming of the Messiah, sounds will be heard, meaning shofars, shofaros, b'shvishim milchamos, and in the 7-year wars will break out, and upon the conclusion of the 7th year, the son of David will come. And the Gemara answers that the war that will break out in the 7th year is already considered the part of the redemption. At best, the war that they're talking about, the war that the Gra said would happen on the town of Rabbah, that Gog is Iran.
Sure.
At best, that was last week.
Okay, so we're in it.
This war being talked about is last week. Maybe
Yeah, but but when I say Geula, I don't mean the temple's built. I'm talking about using the term Rashit Tzmichat Geulatenu. I think is wrong. I think we're in it. We're not at the end. And by the way, a lot of it at this point also there's Shuva Elai v'Shuva Elechem. It is a tango dance. And if there's people that decide to be like, not only this is the argument that Jacob and I always have about like the 3 Shvuot. If you don't look at this reality as this is what God wants, then you're not interested in dancing with him. Because like here's the land, here's the people, come here, and like no, it's not it.
I'm totally for it. I hear you. But in the meantime, I'm not going to be caught dead eating kitnios, and I'm not going to be caught dead not doing Tuesday Yom Tov because halacha is what halacha is. And the same Chazal, the same Rav Kook you're talking about.
Yeah.
In England. What do you think he was doing?
Kitniot City, baby. Kitniot City, the whole family. We're in Kitniot. And by the way, there's a lot of movement like that in Jerusalem happening as well. And you should also realize, you're saying right now there's no way you're going to do it until there's a critical mass of people that say, like, you know what, now you can. And they'd be like, it looks like most people are now doing it, so now I can.
But that is how halacha works. It is
great.
A critical mass.
Great, but someone has to start it, right? So right now I'm in the kofar zone. Great, talk to me in three years from now. We'll see where we're at.
You know, God willing, if Mashiach doesn't come tomorrow, in 3 years you will still be a kaifer.
No, but people need to be movers and shakers, right? People weren't so, and I'm not him. I'm not close to him. I'm not close to the dust on his shoes. People didn't like Rambam's books. They're like, no, we don't like this.
I hear you, but I don't think the reason why he was controversial. He was, and I'm not saying you're not. He was an absolute genius by anybody's. He smoked the competition.
Sure. By the way, so let's
at Machon Shiloh. Although he's not stupid, he's not 1/1 trillionth of a toenail of Rav Ovadia. So, like,
I don't think Rav still won't go and listen to the Yanuka. Because
that's not true.
Like the Yanuka.
That's not true at all. It's just like, I don't know what to do with that kind of information, the Yanuka. Like, that's it. Like, be a leader. Great. Speak to politics, make change. Like, if you're the real deal, awesome. Like, I'm not against.
That's not what the Yanuka is.
Why don't you listen to a single speech, one speech?
I've heard his speech, and I heard him play music. It's great. I'm not opposed to the Yanuka. It's all good. It's all hunky dory.
Should build a third temple like by our hands, or do you think we should like?
Yes, but we're not there. It goes together because there's different shitos also. If it's built just by us with God's assistance, God builds it and we assist Him. But either way, for that to happen, I think it would be okay for us to build it. But I think we could all agree over here for the state of Israel to galvanize together and actually do something that would be messianic. Like, that would require a miracle for people to get it together. So if we were in a position where like there is a majority of Israelis that want to do this right now, then I would be like, yeah, I guess that's what needs to happen right now.
So
But we're not there.
in the Bible, when Ezekiel describes the Prince of Peace doing this, who's that?
Again, I think these are transitions from, and Jacob's going to hate this. So I'm just taking a deep breath.
He hates everything.
I'm going to say, and I'm just also throwing this on because you mentioned that like that the Zohar is like, we're getting down to the Gauls as well. I believe like the Zohar are like, the last teachings we have of like, prophetic understandings of our Torah. So I don't see that as old Torah. I just see that as deep ancient Torah. But I believe that we are the state of Israel, and even secular Jews are representatives of Mashiach ben Yosef. And there's different shitas of like it's the lost tribes, and then even only if it's only in Judah, again there's a split within Judah again where some are considered Mashiach ben David and some it's really Yehuda, and then together they make Mashiach ben David, and some are Mashiach ben Yosef. So I think that what we are witnessing for the last 75 years, and this is like another step, because I believe Israel will never be the same after what just happened. I believe this is another step in. We are seeing the klipa of secular Zionism being removed painfully. And this also alludes to like the eventual eulogy that has to have. There has to be a death to this secular structure, even if it's divine, which allows then for the creation of, and this goes back to the famous Gemara of Hashem going to Yerovam and telling, come walk with me in the field with Ben David. And Yerovam says, who's in the head? Who Barosh? And he says, Ben David Barosh. He says that I'm not interested. We are still having that fight. And the culmination with that was what happened in Israel on Yom Kippur, where you had that horrible fight, where there is a sense where I think the secular does not realize and has not fully embraced its Jewish status and recognition of its roots. And that's the secular structure that was brought onto us, which Jacob is against. I'm with him. I think on the Judah part, and I'm using an example over here, let's say the ultra Orthodox, which let's say you could say like let's say the people that are the most traditional. I think there's also a wake-up call in Israel recognizing like this structure doesn't work if we're not all in this together. And there's been like seeing the secular Jews in Israel kosher their kitchens right now to bring kosher food for the people on the front line I look at that as a data point. Seeing Haredim wanting to enlist and seeing them making thousands of tzitzit pairs for the Israeli soldiers, I see that as a data point. And the question is going to be like, what's going to happen after on? I don't know yet to tell you if this is biblical. I can tell you this kind of war and all the moving parts with the Abraham Accords in Saudi Arabia, this is on a biblical scale. Depending on Israel's moves and depending on what's going to happen in the rest of the world, it is yet to see if this is biblical proper. But this is, with the goggles I have on, that's my interpretation of these things. I think we're on the right. I think we're on the right. Because I can't. One more thing. I'm sorry. I can't. Yeah. I don't believe that a month ago, these 1,300 wounded, murdered civilians, they didn't pray enough on Yom Kippur, right? Or they didn't check like, that's not the game God plays. I am, just like the Holocaust, I am willing to accept this on my people as part of the greater story that my people deal with. And that's how I see something like this framed. Because otherwise, there's serious questions at that point, obviously.
You had me probably until there, but I really agree with you. And I'm sure you know this statement in Orot by Rav Kook. It's what got the book banned, that there are, shocker, different elements of the body of Israel, meaning we don't all have to be Bachram. There are people that are also foot soldiers. There's the David HaMelech. There's the soldiers of David HaMelech. There's different elements. Obviously, Kabbalah deals with this extensively. Elements of what the Jews are, what humanity is. And I'm totally with you that the goal should be not a nation. I once heard it said, not recreating Jewish life in exile in the land of Israel. It should be something
Agreed.
distinct from Jewish life outside of the land of Israel. Are you an architect? Is that what you?
Yeah.
So you know that you know I'm preaching to the choir here. You know that to get a building built, you can't all be architects, and you also can't all be guys with hard hats. And I think Knesset Yisrael is itself a project of building something. And likewise, you need the guys with hard hats. You need the guys constructing the building in a more abstract way, and everything in between. But you nonetheless need all the parts. And I think, and I want to say Rav Kook says literally the head and the feet. And we just said Simchas Torah, which is anyways a kind of...
He does say the head of the feet. This is a break off of Rihal talking about Am Yisrael Kelev Ba'Evarim, like we are the heart, because that's like you're having a discussion about Israel. Then there's a discussion about Israel compared to the other nations, which even there they see them as Israel is just the heart of the body, but it requires the rest of the body. And ultimately, this is the tikkun and the dichotomy between Tzefania and the Tower of Babel, because they're haaretz safachat dvarim achadim. They are deciding to everything is one, and in Tzefania, when we're calling in God in one accord in Shechem Echad, that's not that it's one voice. It's we are all bringing our cultural package, and there could be different voices and there could be different stripes to it, but they're all oriented towards God, and then you're getting a fuller picture of what's supposed to be happening. And that's why, yes, I was gonna say, Jacob, you could push back if you want to, but are you down to open up Zechariah?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
This is another huge problem, man. The Tanakh is I love the Bavli. We poskin like the Bavli, but I think there's something kind of odd about the total eclipsing of all other Jewish material in the name of Talmudic logic. It's something that I'm sure you and I will agree with.
Zechariah 8, Zechariah 12.
It's an intense chapter.
Yeah, I think it's in 12. Okay, let's scroll down. More and more, far down. Scroll back up. Sorry. Yeah, here. Here, 5. Number 5. Okay. This is a little different than other ones, where here the dichotomy is not between Yisrael and between usually you have there's different versions of Ephraim and Yehuda. Here it's Yisrael and Yehuda. V'amu elfei Yehuda belibam amtsali yoshvei Yerushalayim be'Adonai tzvaot Elohehem. Their gods. Here again you see a difference, which is they are saying we are going to here it's flipped. Yehuda is really supposed to be the secular ones, and the Toshvei Yerushalayim are represented as the more religious ones. But here you see they have a relationship with God. We have a different entity. We're not as religious, but they still see themselves as one people, and that split has always been. There has always been that split with the Jewish people. And Haben Yakili Ephraim Kim Yedet Shashuim. Ultimately, I know that Ephraim has this nonsense about a secular world, and I know that Ephraim has a nonsense with its clubs and the nonsense with its philosophy. But ultimately, Yelet Shashuim, God understands that this is all it's Ephraim trying to make its way.
Yes, for sure.
Through the universal element, which always fails, and it fails with Safnat Paneach, who has to remove the garment, and his bones get removed from Egypt. Yeah. And the Zohar talks about because he didn't want to be seen as God, and you could even interpret that as Jesus, potentially, as, again, another version of a universal savior, which does not make it. And it's very convenient that his father's name is Joseph, and there's 12 apostles, and his strife is with someone named Judas. So that, again, is a pattern that potentially repeats itself. But, yeah. But thank you for that, Jacob.
Okay, it's...
I gotta go.
Midnight.
I gotta go. The Rav Kook and the Tanakh came out. I gotta go.
I am going to conclude this with the bracha Baruch Dayan Emet. Blessed is the true judge.
Amen.
So
Amen va'amen.
this
Yehi
dog.
ratzon.
May we all get to dance at the temple, and Sandy, you will be standing there right with us because there's
So-
enough interpretations to find room for you at the temple as well.
This
Enough
video.
interpretations, but that's obvious.
This video.
Why, Yecheskel gets a little intense about some stuff.
This
Okay,
video.
Shia seems really pashut, but yeah.
This
video.
David
Is-
Amelch, call on the shamas to hallelujah.
I'm with you, brother. Yeah, this
Yes.
video, Jacob.
video is of a house in Kfar Aza.
Yeah,
The entire family was slaughtered, including all of the children.
it's a great
And
way to
that-
end this, Jacob.
The puppy is hanging around in the bunk bed waiting for the kids. And so, what I have to say to anyone who wants to talk about the Geula is
Yeah.
no, the Geula has not come.
Yes. Okay. I disagree, but I'll tell you. Oh yeah. You know what? So, on this one,
It comes in
I
parts.
just got a recording right now of a 20-minute recording. I could send it to you if you want to, but it's in Hebrew, of one of these soldiers, a wounded soldier, explaining what his experience was. Because we're asking ourselves in Israel, like the amount of casualties and why are so many of the casualties of like elite soldiers? This soldier single-handedly killed, I don't know, like 30 terrorists. And the story is insane. Driving, going, gun, like Mika Amcha Israel. These the land.
Chazi, what does
Yeah.
it say about David HaMelech building the temple?
That his hands were full of blood, so he couldn't build it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, great. So his sons. Did I say that
Okay.
those guys?
Chazi,
Great.
if you want to
The sun-
continue this, you have my channel is your channel.
Chazi just made a great point.
I am
Jacob, what
going
you said
to
made
bed.
no.
You guys have a great night.
I'm signing
I
off
have
too.
to say,
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Max, I think
Oh.
if we establish one thing, it's like you and I.
I thought that you had shut the whole thing off. You
no,
just
that
kicked
was
him.
that was him. His device disconnected. I didn't take.
Oh,
I didn't take him off.
see the Yetzer
Okay,
Hara
that was Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
no,
telling him
no, the
something.
Satan, Maisa
Okay, good
Satan.
night, everybody.
Night. It's 3:30.